Does that look like it's a busy calendar?
Did you say May 4th
Seven or
looks
eight
busy?
are on, but one of them is Butter Lane, so, what do you think, Candace? Because we were thinking of Gluckman going on May
Yeah.
4th.
That's fine.
Okay.
If that's what the board is inclined, yes.
Yeah, if the board wants to reopen.
All right,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
okay.
So anything that was, any written submission date that was, what's tomorrow?
Was
4/7.
and these were for the March 16th.
Now gonna be 4/10.
Now gonna be 4/10, and we're gonna do a vote on it.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
of course. Vote on everything.
Democracy.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave.
Okay, no problem.
Turn my ring off so my chairman doesn't put me at the meeting.
Yes.
Eat some broccoli, will you?
Wait till she
Okay.
Turn that microphone off.
You're so easy. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Thank you, guys. No?
Well, a couple minutes after.
It's
But it's not too bad.
You're taking up my life.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam, I'm ready.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the April 6, 2023 meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law Number 14 of 2022, adopted on May 24, 2022. Our next meeting and those following will be held in person here at Town Hall and will also continue to allow for remote participation. So we ask you to continually check the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. With that, I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you who are here with us tonight in person, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another in the boardroom as it interferes with our recording equipment. Also, if you can make sure to turn off your cell phones if you can, that would help as well, or silence them. Tonight we have board members Helen Burgess, who will be participating remotely via Zoom, and board member Robert Macedonio, who is absent. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure that the documents identify the ZBA application name and tax map number. The application name should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a date to be announced after the hearing. Those comments can be addressed to members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell. Also, importantly, it was just discovered today that the written submission deadline for many of the applications heard on March 16th, 2023, was set for tomorrow, April 7th, which is a holiday and Town Hall is closed. As such, we're going to do a vote on this shortly, but the written submissions deadline for any application that was set for April 7th will be extended by this board to Monday, April 10th, 2023. With that, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. And next, want to go to adjournments.
Okay. We have some adjournments this evening. Item 5 on the agenda, which is Max New York Management LLC. I'll move to re-advertise that for our May 4th meeting.
Okay, it's a re-add, so we don't need a vote on it.
Don't need a vote. Okay. Item 9 on the agenda, which is 94 Dune Road Holding Corp. I'll move to adjourn that to our August 3rd meeting.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 10 on the agenda, which is 911 Flanders Road LLC. I'll move to adjourn that to our June 15th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and for those who are interested in this application, we're waiting on the completion of secret. That's the reason for the adjournment.
Okay. On the decision calendar, the following decisions will be put off to our April 20th meeting. 103 Company LLC, Robert Nan Marie Anzalone, and Production Holdings LLC, and Lee Skolnick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, and Matthew Frank and Dean W. Van Tassel will be put off to our May 4th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, Babinski Trust, I'll move to reopen to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopen.
Now move to close with a determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Bodo and Helen Krugvanita. I'll move to reopen to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopened.
I'll move now to close it with a determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, and then Michael Gluckman and Lila Buder Gluckman, I'm going to move for us to reopen that back to a public hearing.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It is reopened.
Do we have a date for it, maybe?
Yes, the date is going to be May 4th, and I would recommend to the board that you try to take that, usually the reopens go at the end, but I would suggest maybe you take that before before 625 Butter, because there is public interest and because we are bringing the applicant back. So
Okay,
maybe
so
like
on
after the
the
new
agenda, it'll
applications.
just be moved up on the agenda.
I think so, after
That's
the new
fair.
ones.
That's fair.
Okay.
So not only are we going to bring it back to a public hearing, we're going to set the hearing date right now, and that's going to be 5/4.
Okay. All right, so that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right.
And we just want to do, I think, the motion on extending the deadline April 7th. April
Yes,
10th.
I'm going to move that we extend the deadline for written submissions, anything that was for 4/7, which is tomorrow, to 4/10, which is my birthday, by the way.
And the reason for this is because town hall is closed
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. Okay,
Second.
okay.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I think we cleaned that up, all right? So then we're back to the beginning of the agenda. Item 1 on the
Oh,
agenda
wait, we
is...
did have, and we also had a request to take number 11 out of order.
Yes.
We had a request to take 11 out of order.
Out
for
of
a
order?
Yes, for a doctor's appointment.
Yep.
All right, so we'll take it out of order.
Yes.
We'll-
So we're gonna do that now?
Yes.
We are.
You want that the first on the agenda?
Yes,
Yep.
Okay, gotta find it.
with the holdover application.
Hello.
Okay.
Just let Keith announce it.
Okay, let him know.
We have, item 11 on the agenda is Richard J. Flood and Mary Ann Steffens, 188 Noyak Avenue in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-5-4-65, excuse me. Applicant requests
Nope,
relief
you
for
don't
the
have to read it,
following...
it's a holdover.
I'm sorry?
You don't have to read it, it's a holdover.
Is it?
It is.
Oh, geez, good.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. Kieran Pate Murphy, for one of the applicants who is here, one of the owners of the property, Mr. Richard Flood.
Yep.
It's also owned by Mary Ann Stevens,
Okay.
Steffens, and
And I'm just going to
you have
swear
to
you.
swear him in.
Yeah, okay.
yes.
So you just state your name and address for the record, please.
Richard J. Flood, 16 Hawthorne Avenue, Sag Harbor, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to, there was a question brought up, and I just wanted to emphasize again, the setback, this is in an R10 zone for Noyak Road. Why the house is 35 feet instead of being 30 is because the septic system, the new AI system, needed that room for it to be put in the front yard. And there was a handout done by Tim McCulley that I think you all should have received. I think at the last page, it talks about the Suffolk County requirements of having, water line and septic. And I believe we also submitted plans that show with it, that are in purple, about talking about that. So I wanted, that was the reason why it wasn't 30 feet, because it was health department requirements. Now, so when, that pushed everything back, so then,
But that pushes the house up?
it pushes the back, away from the road.
Okay, but you're saying it talks about the height.
No, no.
We haven't gotten there, sorry.
Oh, I think
I
this is
know, I
septic.
get it, yeah, the septic,
Got it,
okay,
got
and
it.
so.
For the setback.
Setback, so then there was a reduction in the rear yard from 30 feet to 24.5 feet, because again, the house had to be moved back. And that's a reduction of 20% in
It
the
was
back.
24.5, not 24.2.
Correct, I have
Right.
that in my notes.
Yes.
24.5.
Right.
Yes, okay. And also another thing that everything is gonna be electric on this property, so there's no,
There's no
The
propane
no-
tank,
there's
there's
no
no
tanks.
oil, there's little noise, it's total,
reduction in
total
noise.
state-of-the-art.
And the pool is, again, it should be 8 feet, but it's 7 feet. But, I mean, it is, it's all gonna be electric, so
Well,
that.
why isn't it 8 feet? Is there a reason?
Well, so in a perfect world, I would not ask for any variances, and I tried to do that. But if it were 8 feet, it gets a little close to the house.
How close, do you know?
Yeah, I could tell you.
There's a proposed step, and he has the bigger plan.
And the pool's only 10 feet wide now. So it's not really, it's more of a lap pool. And I apologize for my voice, but I've been through some serious surgery.
Don't worry
Oh,
about
please
that.
do not worry about that.
So right now, it's only 6 feet from the house. So the closer it gets, the more of a hazard of falling into the pool. I mean,
Because you have the steps there, unless you were to, I guess, give a variance to the side there. and get it away from the steps.
I mean, it's a very tight lot, and I don't think it's a very big house. It's only a story and a half. We tried to compromise everything that we possibly could.
Well, I think we ask you to come in, and we greatly appreciate you coming in, because, I think the board members had some questions. I think about, may have been primarily focused on the pool, but in any case, kind of how we got to where we are, to see if there was any way that anything could be, any of the variances could be reduced or eliminated.
Well, I mean, I'm here to get this out of here, all right? But I don't want to compromise something that's going to compromise the integrity of the house. But I mean, I'm not going to be totally inflexible if it meant making the pool 9 feet wide. So be it. But, I mean, in this community, all right, including behind my lot, people have sheds that are on the lot line. It's a very tight,
Yep.
so, I mean,
And lots of people in certain parts of town have sheds that don't have approvals and aren't supposed to be where they are.
yeah.
Yes,
I'm-
no, that's true, that's true, I agree with
I'm
that.
not picking
There
on
I
is a
understand.
very eclectic
Yeah.
neighborhood.
I'm just
Yes.
trying to
Yep.
give you a picture of
Yep.
what things are like.
Okay.
Is there any other way to sort of mitigate, I understand it's all electric, but, with vegetation or something else back there to
When-
sort of create a barrier between you and the neighbor?
When this house is done, it's gonna be an oasis, okay? So the neighbors are really not gonna see into this property. It's all gonna be vegetated with arborvitaes or leaves or something like
So
that.
you'd be willing to say that you would be acceptable to vegetation on the back?
Absolutely,
Okay.
And it would be a condition of the
Okay.
It'd be a
variance.
condition.
It'd be a
to
condition.
that.
that's
Okay,
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 because that was gonna get done anyway.
Yeah, okay,
It's
just
all right,
wanted
so
to check.
You should
Okay.
have no problem with it.
okay, so that's, we got that, okay, so,
Okay. So,
all right, so that's there. And then, we had, the pyramid was only 135 feet, but I know there was an issue about the height.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought Mr.
So,
Yoder here. So the height,
yep,
there's a 1.5, it's a peak roof.
yep.
The idea is that the house has to maintain a 14-foot elevation at the finished first floor, and has to be 3 feet above the water table.
The
And I think
footings,
and the footings, so Mr. Flood is gonna explain that a
it
little bit
becomes a
more.
math problem, so when you add it all up, we're a foot and a half over the 32 feet. Now, could I change the roof line? Could I lower it 18 inches? I kind of drew you a sketch. We're asking for less of a pyramid variance by doing this than if I would have asked for, let's say, a dormer. Because what happens is, when you lower the pitch, then the knee walls, I don't have 7'6" ceiling height anymore on the second floor. So that would mean I would want to ask for a dormer so that I have that height, which I could show you.
What's the ceiling heights on the first floor?
Ceiling heights on the first floor are 9 feet,
9 feet?
yes. Which is normal, I know normal years ago was 8 feet, but normal today is 9 feet.
Are you close to a flood zone? Because it says it's an X zone. I mean, do you have a flood zone? Typically, the board will consider height variances when people have to elevate the houses because they're in a flood zone. Is the flood zone close?
I would say yes.
I mean,
But this property isn't itself in the
No,
flood
it's an
zone.
X.
No, it isn't, but it's kind of
Yeah,
next to,
yeah.
I mean, right around the corner is Circle
yeah.
Beach,
the
and that
beach
was
is
all
right down the block,
flooded.
I mean, the street floods all the time.
No, I believe you. I'm just asking for the flood zone.
I don't-
Typically, the board doesn't give height variances unless
Okay,
you're in a flood
I'm
zone.
not gonna give
Yeah.
you an
And-
answer.
and
that-
typically-
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
understand.
it's,
And typically, I don't, usually 9 feet ceiling heights, or, something we would ask an applicant to reduce, if they're asking, particularly asking for height relief. The pyramid relief is next to nothing, but we don't grant height relief, like Katie just said, most of the time, and we only do it when the property is forced to be elevated because of FEMA regs, because of flood issues. And that's not the case here. So if we were to grant the relief, I suspect we will have an awful lot of applications for height to go up on properties that don't have that kind of a limitation on them. So that's the concern.
What was the ceiling height on the the second story?
Well, it's pitched.
goes up 'cause it's
Okay,
pitched,
so
yeah.
it's 7'6" at its lowest point.
Right.
And then it could be, it's set at 9 now, but it could be 8. That
Right.
wouldn't be an issue. I could make that 8.
If it were 8, then I believe, and it's two stories, I believe that would eliminate the height relief.
No,
Would
it
that-
wouldn't.
Okay, then what would it be, height relief?
What
Well,
about the
we're
first
talking
floor?
about the second floor.
The
Okay.
second floor.
All right, so changing the ceiling height on the second floor doesn't eliminate the request for the 18 inches.
We can't,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
thinking of making it, doesn't it lower the peak?
Well, we could lower the pitch, but
That's the other thing you could do, is the design of the roof.
yes, but then on the outside walls, we're gonna be below 7'6". You do one thing, it affects another thing.
I understand.
Well, I'm not inclined to support a height relief with 9-foot ceilings on this lot that's 6,250 square feet. I mean, that's just, doesn't,
Well, if the first floor went down to 8 feet,
Well, that would be 12 out of the 18 inches.
well, you
Well-
got 6 more to go?
Yeah. Well, I think the way this is gonna go is that, I do not know whether you're gonna have support for the height, for the request for height.
Okay, all right,
Put
so,
it that way.
all right, so listen, I've been around a long time, and I'm not gonna pick this battle. So if I can find, is there some middle ground, all right?
I don't think so. I think,
No,
I
they're
think, I think
not.
it's gotta comply.
Not on height.
because
not
it's,
on the height.
because it's not in a flood zone.
Yeah.
So then
yeah.
the thing is, would you have to maybe make a bigger, reduce the side yard? I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Or
So-
like you
so-
said, maybe getting that space will now have a pyramid encroachment, and so, but
You'd have a bigger pyramid encroachment, maybe instead of being 8 feet on one side, you're
Correct.
7, but
Correct.
you have,
We-
it's more,
yeah.
it's flatter.
Yeah. We're more inclined to grant pyramid
To-
relief than to grant height
yeah.
relief in a situation like this.
So you could get more pyramid, but you wouldn't exceed the 32 feet, which is the most critical issue here. Is
All
is that
right.
fair to say?
I think it's fair to say.
We have very little left that's sacred
I understand.
here, and height is one of those.
Okay, understood. So,
Can I just ask you, what is the 14-foot elevation at the finished first floor? What is that?
well, ever since Hurricane Sandy, it's where everybody wants to be, so house don't flood.
Okay, but you're not in a flood zone.
I'm not, but
Is there any play with that? I'm just raising that as a possibility.
I don't want to jeopardize the quality of the
Okay.
house.
Okay, I think you
It's-
heard
it's-
from
it's-
us what our concerns are, and
Yeah.
it's up to you to come back with
Yeah.
some alternative that we
Okay,
can
so-
consider.
So you could go wider, as long as you're below.
There's a few things that I could do that I don't want to do, but if I have to,
Consider them.
I,
Just, yeah, I would brainstorm as to what possibilities are available to you and then pick the one that's least onerous.
Yeah. But I just want to be clear about the height. I don't think you'll have 4 votes for the granting of any height relief.
okay.
But the rest of it, in terms of pyramid increases, I think, depending on the member, which I
It's a
suspect.
small pyramid
Yeah,
request
yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
It's only 132.
35 feet,
It is.
Yeah.
so.
It is.
Virtually nothing.
It's very, it's just,
Well, let me ask you this. So, we've all looked at these plans, I assume, right? And we've all looked at the elevations. So looking at that elevation, right? If I lose 18 inches here, right, does anybody have an objection to, oh, thank you. Because now I'm gonna wanna get that space back that I lost inside. Because when this goes down 18 inches, I lose my 7'6" height. at these walls. So does anybody have?
Unless you change the design of the roof. Then that might be another way to avoid the height relief.
Wait, but what is
Or
your
the height
question?
of the foundation.
I'm sorry?
But what is your question? You said,
So would we have an objection to me dormering this out?
not necessarily, that's,
That's gonna
a
be a
pyramid,
bigger-
what we're saying is a pyramid encroachment would be something we would consider. A height variance is not something we would consider, so that could be a workable fix.
Could be a workable depending on the numbers. So, I mean, if, for example, if the pyramid relief that you're requesting goes up from what it is right now to, I don't know.
1,500 square
yeah,
feet.
but 1,500 cubic feet or something like
That
that.
may be a
they'll give you the
non-starter.
pyramid.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so that's an option. That actually is an option that I considered so many months ago, and I actually crossed it out because it was more of a pyramid variance, and I was actually trying, in my world, to not ask for anything, but it wasn't possible.
And sometimes eliminating the pyramid relief is better for the neighbors, but it's harder for the board to justify the height.
All right, and I'm gonna ask you one more question. I could change the design of the roof and still not have to ask for a dormer, all right? And I'd like to try and avoid coming back here. Not that I don't love you guys.
Well, I don't know that you have to come back.
Well, I
but
can
your-
come
your-
back.
your-
Okay, but
your
it's been,
attorney can
no,
come
I
back.
don't mean it physically,
Oh.
I mean time-wise, all right? Because it's been a couple of years already, it's just a tough piece.
I think we're gonna have to see what you're proposing. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, they have to see it,
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
know.
I don't
I mean,
see
it
that. this is
sounds
a
though
written
that you
submission.
have some wiggle room, that you might be able to fall within the pyramid and not need pyramid relief and not need to ask for, well, we're not gonna give you height relief, but there is a world in which that could occur, it seems. You have some extra space that you could give up.
In addition, because this application is going to be changed, you're going to come up with a revised proposal, I think a continuation of the public hearing is important, so that the neighbors have an opportunity, if they wanted to attack and express their concerns, if they have concerns.
The faster you can revise the plans, the faster you can get on the agenda.
Yep.
So what do you think?
You have no idea what it's like out there right now.
No, I know.
Hey Todd, how quick can
see
you
it.
get these plans to me?
I know.
6 months, right?
I know.
It's
So,
crazy.
well, do you have an idea? We could ask.
Well, let's wait and hear from the neighbors. Well,
Oh, okay,
All
right.
right, so
They're
let
from
me
neighbors.
ask one more question. All right? So, I'm going to assume that you can understand what I'm going to say, but if not, I could draw it, all right? So if we took this roof here and dropped it to 18 inches, I'm not changing the pitch, let's just say I don't change the pitch.
We're not going to design your project for you, your
We'll
revised
have
project
to-
for you,
No,
okay?
Okay.
This is a conversation you have to have with the professional that you're dealing with, okay? I'm not going to get into the minutia of this
They said
in that kind of a way.
what we can do.
I was just wondering if
Yeah.
I could explain to you what I've just.
I understand,
come up with.
but we need to have it. We need to have it to be able to
Okay.
give you
Yeah,
the
because
answer.
it's hard to explain. That's fine.
Okay.
We know, we can't go over 32 feet, and we can expand the pyramid, so I
Yeah.
think we're in good shape. I
Yeah.
think they're willing to
If you
address
drop it
that.
18 inches and it's within the pyramid, you don't even need to come back to us.
Well, not
Well,
enough for
I
that.
can
No,
do
we have
that.
the pool.
Yeah.
I can
There's
do
other
that,
issues.
Yeah.
but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that the look of the roof from the street is gonna be different now, so I don't know, I have to.
But we're talking about, hypotheticals,
Yeah, they-
and we just can't give you a definitive
can't-
answer without being
yeah.
All
able
right,
to
so I'm
see.
gonna have to come back.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
we'll
you're gonna
consider
have to
at
come
that
back.
point
Okay.
Understood.
whether it fits within the character of the community, et cetera, et cetera.
no, we still have to get public.
Oh, we have to
the
get
other
public
stuff.
comments.
We did, okay. Any other questions?
But we're,
Any other questions from members of the board? Katie, Anthony?
Nope.
Okay. Is there anyone who's in the boardroom this evening who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Flood and Steffens? This is for property located at 188 Noyak Avenue in Sag Harbor. Okay. No. I just have to swear you in unless you previously testified. You can just state your name and
He
address.
did previously.
He
testify.
did.
You did, okay,
Last
then
time.
just state your name now.
Ed Padine,
Okay.
182 Noyak Avenue.
Okay.
I'm speaking on behalf, I was here before, speaking
Okay.
on behalf of Dorothy Forgash. It was having to do with the pool, the setback, the 7-foot, 8-foot.
Mhm.
She did send a letter in, she just wants to make sure that the letter was received.
Mhm.
And the only question that I had the last meeting was a privacy screening. I spoke to Mr. Flood about that, you addressed it. Just want to make sure that that's addressed and.
It will be a
it will be.
condition.
And that's
It will
it.
be.
That's all I
Yeah.
have.
Okay.
Good evening.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Okay. Okay, I also have to swear you in unless you were previously sworn in.
She was previously sworn.
You were, okay, just state your name now.
Lorraine Blakeney,
Okay.
and I'm here on behalf of Dorothy and Ed and other neighbors, and I think I understand a little bit more about the project now, but I don't want to see arborvitae's there because I'd like to see some native planting there. It's so important for our wildlife, for our neighborhood, for everything. It needs less water, etc. So I'd like to see that. And I'm tired, I'm sorry, give me a minute. And I was just wondering, this house is a modular house.
It is not.
It's not. It's not a modular house, okay. So, okay, my question was, could it be another design? But it's not a modular house, so I guess it cannot be another design.
He's talking about another design, so
Right,
that he
that's
can
what the
comply
whole
with the height.
discussion was.
Oh, yes, okay,
Yeah.
yes, that's right. Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, I still, I worry for Dorothy and Ed because they've been there and their families for over 59 years, so I
But
hate
they,
to
they just asked for screening, so they seem satisfied.
I know, this is
Okay.
and this, on the screening, I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
Because I'm a naturalist, I'm a master
Okay,
naturalist,
but-
I studied very hard for that.
But
and-
you can't speak on behalf of them, they just spoke and said they were satisfied with the screening. So on your own behalf, you're unsatisfied.
Oh, I'm sorry, did Ed say that?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh, okay, well, that's Ed, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I agree, but you said you spoke on behalf of them, and
Got
they
you.
spoke.
Got you, okay. All right, well, that's enough from me, since I'm not making much sense right now. And thank you for your work, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in connection with this application? Who's here in the boardroom? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which is the application of Flood and Steffens? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Kevin?
No one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, so we're, Susan, it's, we're gonna be keeping it open.
This is
And,
mine. Is this mine?
Yes.
When do you think you can come back, Karen?
He said he could come back in a month.
A month. okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
And
so
he
I'm
said-
going
he said a
to,
A month.
If I,
a month? All right,
if I
so
get
that
the
would be
architect to perform, I'll be back in a
May,
month.
the May,
If not, I'll
Fourth.
let you
Listen.
know.
that will be on May 4th. So I move that we continue the public hearing till May 4th.
Okay, and for you folks in the back who are here, the public hearing is going to be adjourned until May 4th, be continued on May 4th. So-
Second.
All right,
And
Okay.
thank you so much for letting us go.
But really just for the
You're welcome.
house, because the pool
Thank
you've
you.
already addressed.
right.
All
Okay,
right, so,
Ms. Kern,
just
Aye.
to be clear.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Mr. Daly. Mr. Leonard. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Anything else you want, Ms. Colvin, tonight?
Totally happy.
Okay, we'll go to the beginning of the agenda then.
Yes, please.
you can talk to
Item 1 on the agenda is Catherine Caltabiano, 14 Windcliff Road in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-265-4-6. Applicant requests a determination that the subject parcel, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-265-4-5, is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels, and thus entitled to relief pursuant to 330-115D. In addition, applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code to legalize the one-car garage attached to the dwelling without the benefit of a building permit. 1, 330-84D, pyramid height for a pyramid encroachment of 84.2 cubic feet on the east side of the property. 2, 330-11, residence districts table of dimensional regulations for a minimum required side yard setback of 10 feet where 20 feet is required. And 330-115C, continuance for a total required side yard setback of 24.3 feet where 35 feet was pre-existing on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction. Pass it to Mike.
Good evening. I just have to swear you in unless you're either of you is an attorney.
1 second.
One moment, I'm recusing myself from this case,
Okay,
so I will be outside.
okay. All right, so I just have to, Mike's, I just have to swear you in. You can just state your names and addresses, please.
Catherine Caltabiano, 12 Ginny Lane, Hampton Bays.
Mark Caltabiano, 12 Ginny Lane, Hampton Bays.
And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, you can tell us about the application.
Yes, so after purchasing the property, we learned that it was previously that we bought the 14, we bought 12, which was a lot next door, vacant lot. They were held in the same name.
Yep.
So we came last year and we got the single and separate determination on lot 12.
Thank you for that.
And now we want to get it on 14 also,
Okay.
because this one was delayed because in this process, we realized that the garage was built in the 60s and it was never a CO.
Okay.
I guess the attorneys didn't catch it because no
Yeah,
one
we didn't
told
catch
us.
it at closing, so.
We need it for a rental permit.
Wow.
And just to legalize it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I know we had a single and separate search done that we have as part of the application. I went through it. Katie, I'm sure you went through it as
I
well.
did. Yep.
Single and separate applications are a little different than the regular applications that we mostly hear, which are variance applications, in that rather than it being a variance request, it is case law that determines how we handle these kinds of applications. And the case law basically says that as long as there wasn't an intention currently or in the past to merge the two lots into one, that even if there's a period of time of common ownership, there isn't necessarily a legal merger that took place. So that means that we go through the deed history, which is in the single and separate search, and we also look at what's on both lots and whether there was ever an intent indicated anywhere to merge the two lots. So anyway, do the deeds to the two properties have different tax map numbers and different addresses?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did either of the lots have a mortgage on it, do you know, in the past?
I don't know, I don't
You want to
believe
know
so.
the history, yeah.
I only asked the question because if one of them had a mortgage on it and not the other, that in and of itself would be pretty much resolve the single and separate issue alone. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. You don't have that.
Got it.
Yep. Now, in terms of what's on the two parcels, it appears that 14 has a house on it, 12 has what looks like a building on it, or that's what it looks like, 12.
It was a shed?
Like, it looks like a shed.
No, that's a vehicle, probably.
yeah.
Vehicle.
Put a couple fruit trees. Guilty,
like two
fruit trees,
vehicles.
Okay.
persimmons, apple and pear.
All right. I could, it kind of looks like a building if you look at it, yeah, okay. All right, so basically 12 is vacant land.
It's just an empty lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
okay.
the one that we did the single and separate determination on.
On
And
already.
the only common ownership was between these two lots.
Right,
Wait.
right, okay. So there's nothing on 12 Lincliff Road at all that benefits 14 Lincliff Road. An example of what would
Who's parking the vehicles on 12?
That was back
That
in the
was
day.
previous
the-
zoning.
They're not now.
That whoever was there, yeah. That we don't
Those
park
buildings
any
don't
cars.
count,
We cleaned up the
Okay.
scraps.
Well, an
Anyway, I bring it
example.
forward, that's it.
Right. No, an example of an accessory, structure or building, for example, if it had a pool on it, or if it had a shed or
Get it,
a
yeah.
barn that was benefiting 14 Lincliff, then an argument can be made that that was an intent to merge. But
Yeah.
does not appear to be the case. So basically, 12 is just vacant land.
Right,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, okay. And we already did the single and separate determination on 12 anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a garage that we didn't realize that was attached to the home back in the 60s, and that's the only really thing.
Yeah, okay.
But,
The
yeah.
Hillbillies built that too?
That's what we heard.
Okay.
It was before my time. I was born in 71, so I think it was before me.
Okay, and you're not aware of anything else that was in existence between the two lots intended to merge the one and the other?
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, I think we have the information we need. Are there any questions of members of the board? Or Katie?
No,
Anthony?
you just want to just quick go through the garage though.
Oh, sure, sure.
Because
Okay,
those were Marge's comments. She
Right.
basically just said, it. They have a CO, but the garage wasn't covered on it.
Okay.
He said it was built in the 60s.
Okay. yes, so we have, besides the application for the single and separate status, we also had the relief that you requested, pyramid relief, and looks like, let me see, minimum side yard setback and total side yard setback. Okay, so you can just tell me a little bit about that relief that's being requested.
Yeah, basically it's like already existing, so we didn't really want
Okay.
to tear it down. So, yeah, we just wanted to update the CO and that just is preventing us from
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
so. They said we needed to, I actually put the building permit in.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's not gonna hold it up.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for the determination.
Okay, well, I do want to mention one other thing, which is, I'm presuming that you had an attorney who represented you when you bought these two parcels?
Mhm.
Okay, so one was improved and one was vacant. A lot of attorneys may not necessarily know about, zoning issues, but, if you have a vacant lot that's undersized, and you're selling it with an improved lot that is also undersized, that's when these issues could come up. So, my guess is you didn't discover this in advance of the closing, because if you had, probably you would have dealt with it much sooner, but
But it is a real estate attorney that we used.
I understand.
Yeah,
But
can't
real estate
speak on
attorneys
their
aren't necessarily understanding zoning
I
issues.
thought they would have known.
When did you guys buy the property?
About a year ago.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah, about 1 year, March, just over a year that we closed on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
We
I
just
mean,
weren't aware that wasn't, yeah.
and things get missed, and I understand that, but, just for what it's worth, I mean, that's also,
Thank you.
something that maybe should have, could have been brought to your attention sooner.
I would've thought
After
so as
after you
well.
spent a bunch of
Adam,
money.
you do have that deed though?
Um,
Because that's the thing,
Okay.
it's possible we don't have the deed because maybe there's a delay with the Suffolk County, the Suffolk County
we have a
court.
deed.
Okay, because I also didn't see it in the title search either, so,
Well, maybe because, let's see when the single and separate search was done.
I know,
Yep, so 2020, March 23rd, 2022 is the date of the deed.
yeah,
And
that's why.
single and separate, yeah, it's probably
Okay.
why. Yeah, yep. Do we want to have the search updated?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay.
Just call the title company and ask them to just update it to list you guys, because it doesn't even list you guys as the owners.
Yeah, so the date of the single and separate search was January 28th, 2022. The deed is dated March 23rd, 2022, so the single and separate search was brought up before you bought the property.
Well, yeah.
And it indicated that there was an issue. But I guess for whatever reason, it just wasn't,
Interesting, wow,
yeah, so they knew.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody
And
mentioned
to keep the
anything.
property separate?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, of course they knew, because they knew that it was a common ownership with the other lots.
Right, right.
right.
Just ask them to update it to
But I
include
mean,
you.
but even if it was in common ownership, they just, it was missed. But I mean, obviously, they had a single separate search done, so they knew it was an issue,
Right.
and something happened there, and I can't speak to that.
Well, thank you for
Yep.
pointing it out. Yeah.
Yep, no problem. Okay, all right, so so the one thing I guess we would ask is that you have the title company, this Fidelity, update the single and separate search to make, to show that you're the new owners of the property.
Right.
And other than that, I think we should have everything we need.
Okay.
And we're okay with approving the various setbacks and
Oh.
pyramid relief and everything else?
Well, and let's see, so the pyramid relief is very,
minimal.
very minimal.
Right.
The,
Side yard setback of 10 feet is not that minimal, but
Yeah.
it's been a pre-existing garage, is
Oh,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
it's
forever.
like you see
Aerials
the,
from the 60s, it's
okay.
been there.
interior wood with the old stamping on it, it's like old school, yeah, way
yeah,
back.
and being that you bought the property, I would presume you would not have any knowledge as to how the garage, was put there without, I guess, all the approvals that it needed, because it was built at a location
Right,
that
we
needed
just thought it was all
various-
Doesn't have
one
the hillbillies forwarding
back in the
address.
day, yeah. It's a small garage, it's not two-story,
Okay.
it looks
What kind of condition is it in?
decent, everything's good, yeah.
Okay.
We did the spray foam and everything's solid, yeah.
So it was, maybe the garage was built,
Just to keep it warmer, because
Probably
it's
not
just
too long ago.
plywood, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
But it's,
You want to address Margie's comments?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we also had comments from the building department, and let me just read you what we received.
Height, I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
elevation.
been done.
Well,
as
all
far
it
as
is
from
plans shall
natural grade.
indicate an average natural grade instead of average existing grade. So the building department wants the plans revised.
We did revise
They
them.
did that.
You did that?
Yeah,
Okay,
we have a
good.
memo from March. too.
Okay.
That's on here.
Good, okay, so that's done. So basically just the updated title search, I think, so that it's a single and separate search. And I
Do we
think
bring that back to you folks?
you can give it to Candace,
So then you
forward
get
it to Candace,
logged in.
and, yep, it'll be a
Good,
written
good.
sub, so you're not gonna have to come back in person.
Seems pretty
I don't-
doable.
Thanks, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
All right, any other questions or members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who is here this evening who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is Caltabiano for property located at 14 Cliff Road in Hampton Bays? Is there anyone who would like to be heard in connection with this property who's on Zoom? Again, 14 Cliff Road in Hampton Bays. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one on Zoom, okay. Michael
So
Church.
I was at the property and it's clearly being used like your house and a separate lot. So you've done a good job at that. You've got
Thank you.
orchard growing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we put a
Um,
few fruit trees. I'm
Yeah.
hoping they take root, and I'm looking forward to some fruits.
So you're doing the right thing.
Don't want to build a home right now, or if ever,
Please
who
get
knows?
that title
Yeah, by all
submitted
means.
to us, and
We'll-
if you have it submitted by April 21st, we're going to close this public hearing,
Thank you.
leaving it till April 21st, and if you have that, we'll have a decision for you on May 4th.
Great. They should do that hopefully rather
Second.
quickly.
Second.
Second.
And if it
Yeah.
turns out you need
or
extra
did we
time,
ask
just,
about comments from the audience? I don't know.
I did,
Oh, did we?
I did.
Yeah.
Um,
And
So I
the
just
Zoom.
If you need additional time, just let Candace know. But as of now, we're putting it down for our written submissions by April 21st, decision.
Thank you for your help. We appreciate it.
May 4th. Okay, Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and Mr. Leonard had recused himself, so he abstains. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, folks. Enjoy. Have a good holiday.
Thanks. You too.
Item 2 on the agenda is Barbara A. Rosenthal, 15 Nets Place, in Flanders, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-147-1-16.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code to reconstruct the existing dwelling on the west side of the property that has 2 one-family dwellings on a non-conforming lot. 1, Town Code 330-116, extension of a non-conforming use, in conformance with the provisions of 330-167B. Specific types of variances to allow the new house to have an increase in floor area to 1,000 square feet, 864 square feet existing, and plus the proposed 164 square feet for a proposed 2-story addition. And 2, Town Code 330-84D, pyramid law for an encroachment in the amount of 445 cubic feet that will result from the proposed reconstruction and expansion of the existing home to comply with town flood prevention requirements and New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code flood resistant construction requirements. In addition, applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-83A, 4 yards to allow a proposed deck on pilings on the west side of the dwelling that will be higher than 1 foot above ground level to be located in the required front yard along Nets Place, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Good evening. The applicant David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Chorg, 2317 Bridgehampton, Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. I have the applicant Barbara Rosenthal with me tonight. I'd like you to swear her in, because I think she may make some comments on at least the time it took us to get here, so.
Okay,
It's been a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. If I can just state your.
She'll do it quick.
You can state your name and address for the record, please.
Barbara A. Rosenthal, 15 Next Place, Flanders.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And tell us about the application.
Well, just first, let me clear up the legal advertisement claims it's a two-story dwelling, and it's really a one-story dwelling. We do have plans in done by Sean Leonard Architects, no relation to John. But,
about you?
no.
How about you?
Well, maybe back at the old sod, right? But it's a one-story house. So,
Copies for everybody.
I think the issue may have come because the survey says it's a proposed two-story house.
Survey has to be changed.
We will have it changed. Hopefully you don't run into the issue with the first applicant that it takes 6 months to get it done, but I think we'll be able to get it done quickly. So the background of this property is it was harmed during Superstorm Sandy, and it's taken us a long time, and I'll ask Barbara to give you just a very quick detail of how we got there. This house has gone through a lot of planning. We're raising it. It's currently there. It's damaged, and we're raising it to meet FEMA. Through raising it, we have a, maybe not as minimal as your first two applications, but a very minimal cubic square footage variance of 445 square feet. If you look at the survey, we're also asking for a minor expansion of the house, which is basically filling in that corner of the house, which takes it from 836 square feet to 1,000 square feet, which is very modest. I've given you aerials of the area, but a very modest house on this lot. We need the variance because it's a non-conforming lot with two houses on it. So it's very minor relief that we're asking for. The third part of the relief that we're asking for is for a deck that's in the front yard. And here, as you know, Reeves Bay is the front yard, not the rear yard. And so we'd like a deck to be able to come out from the main floor of the single-story house. It is in keeping with the neighborhood, and in fact, I think if you look at the aerials I provided you, it's a very modest house compared to the other houses in the area. But I'll ask Barbara just to, I think it's compelling to hear what she went through to get to here, through the process of, actually it started before Superstorm Sandy.
It
but-
did.
Yeah.
Started a long time before.
Okay, but just, if you could quickly, under a minute.
All right, so in 2001, we wanted to expand the house to 1,000 square feet from 800, and whatever it is, 34 square feet. Very small cottage, didn't have a bedroom, and that was our plan. We learned that we had to raise the house up, and at that time, it was on a foundation. So we went, and because of DEC regulations, the application was in DEC, and unfortunately, it was in DEC for, I think, 4 or 5 years, and they wanted the septic system here, then they moved their septic system here, and then they said, no, both houses had to be on the same septic system. The farthest part away from the wetlands, which we did, and now it's an IA septic system that will be for both
That's
houses.
installed, the IA system's
It is-
installed
it is
already
installed.
for the other
Installed.
house that got updated.
We got the permits from the DEC 2 weeks before Superstorm Sandy. Both houses, both small cottages, had close to 2 feet of water in them. We could no longer live in the other cottage in the property because that was more damaged. I think it just had more walls, or the other cottage that we're requesting the permit for had like cedar walls, and it seemed to stand up better. So the original plan was for a proposed two-story. My daughter was 14 at the time. We thought we needed more bedrooms. My husband was alive, he's no longer alive. So I asked the architect to make it one story. From probably Sandy to now, it's been, changing getting the permits for the new septic system, et cetera. And all I want to do is just rebuild what's there, and kind of just square it off, and it's not, it's the same footprint pretty much, except for that 164 square feet.
So it's been 10 years plus, this project?
Almost 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Mostly DEC.
Yeah.
Not too
zoning
much,
board,
not
right?
too
Not
much.
zoning board, not 20 years.
Well,
No,
we'll
no,
see.
no.
We'll see. You're on probation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And you've already went to the conservation board, right? So you
Yes, we have the,
Yeah.
I
submitted
believe
that.
we submitted that
You
approval.
did,
Yeah.
you did, we have that.
And we have, I just submitted 5 letters from neighbors who all agree, so I believe it's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. It's a minimal expansion, so it's not substantial at all. We've installed the IA system already as part of the redo of the other house, and I would argue it's not a self-created hardship. It was a major storm-created hardship here. The expansion may be self-created, but it's so minimal.
Yeah.
that-
Do we have the percentage on that expansion?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask for, calculations for the
Calculations.
existing and expansion.
Correct.
I believe it's on the survey.
Okay.
I don't know that, they've given percentages. What I would say is, they talk about lot coverage, but they include things that aren't within your definition of
Yeah,
lot coverage.
and we
So-
would want to make sure it's right.
Right, what I would propose is I have to get the survey changed anyway.
Yeah.
So I'll have them put those percentages.
They're not gonna have it, you gotta get it from Sean. Like, they has to do the, pre-existing square footage of both houses and then add them and then,
Yeah,
Between Sean and the surveyor, we can get
Yeah.
it.
that's fine. And you understand why we're asking for this?
Yeah,
we have to keep
because
track
in the
of it.
future,
It
if
maxes out at 50%, so basically if it's hypothetically, 20%, then you have another 30% left that you could use, and then that's it, as long as you have these 2 houses on a single lot. That's what creates the nonconformity, and the only way to eliminate that restriction is to make the lot conforming, which would mean giving up one of the structures, which I don't think you want to do. But instead, this will keep, this way, if in the future you needed to expand, request another expansion, you know what you have left. At that point, you'll know what you have left in terms of how much by percentage you can do a further expansion. And I think that was the only question I had.
I just wanted to add that the deck was a lot larger before the storm.
Right.
Also, it's just what the Conservation Board requires now, which is 10 feet, which is fine.
Okay. And then we did have some comments from the building department, so I just want to...
We updated the survey. If
Okay.
you look, I don't know if you received them, but what Art was looking for was the deck, setback, so I think
Okay.
we're good
You
there.
put that on?
Yep.
Okay.
That was addressed.
That's the 9.1?
Just wanna
That's the
ma-
house.
Yeah. Just wanna-
Oh,
so
the
you-
deck is, where's the say what the deck is?
The deck has the deck has the wrong number because it's set back from the house, so that number's wrong. I'll get that updated.
Okay.
Should be 9 point something.
Okay, because
Yeah.
Because it can't be closer.
Yeah. So
No,
as
I
long
know.
as, whatever Art, requests, if there's anything else that he needs.
And we have to get you
Yeah.
a new one anyway, but that's what Art had been asking
Yeah,
for.
okay, as long as you're familiar with his comments.
Yes.
That's fine. Any other questions, members of the board? Anthony, Katie? Okay. Is there anyone who's here in the boardroom who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application of Rosenthal for property located at 15 Nets Place in Flanders? Okay, come on up. Good evening. Seth, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Therese McGinnis, 74 Temple Avenue, Flanders.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay, you can give some comments.
So glad to be here. Barbara is one of the most beloved people in Flanders. She is the best neighbor, and she is a nurse extraordinaire. She has helped so many people. So I'm hoping
She's embarrassed.
So
I don't know her.
looking-
I don't know her.
So she has been on call, she's on call 24/7 for anybody in the community that needs help, including me on numerous occasions. So everyone on Nets Place and Bay Avenue is looking forward to Barbara finally celebrating the completion of her home. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who's in the audience who would like to be heard in connection with you?
Can we end on that?
Rosenthal.
You
Okay.
could throw the box at her if you'd like.
Yeah. Is there is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of Rosenthal for 15 Nets Place in Flanders? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one on Zoom. Okay. Keith, it is yours.
Okay, motion to close. Written submissions by 4/21, determination 5/4.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Hello, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Item 3 on the agenda is Gerard and Ellen Perino, 28 Bonita Road, in East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-362-4-28. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height, for a total encroachment in the amount of 4,032 cubic feet, 995 cubic feet on the south side of the building, and 3,037 cubic feet on the north side of the building, to construct a second story onto an existing dwelling and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction. Pass that
Good
to
evening.
Susan.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Kevin Springer, Dynamic Legal, 61 Channing Cross, Hampton Bays, New York, 11946.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you tell us about the application?
I can.
I hope so.
Or I better leave now. So we have an approximately 1,100 square foot ranch house with a little kick out in the back. We are on a conforming lot, which is a rather small lot. If anybody's not aware, we're in Shinnecock Shores. So the lots are not very big to begin with, but it is conforming for an R10 zoning area. We currently have three bedrooms, 1.5 bath downstairs. The owner, who's owned it for about 7 years now, is looking to retire out here and make a little bit extra room. We're not going to be adding any bedrooms, but we will be adding a new septic system, low nitrogen septic system. And it's only, there's two reasons. The other reason are going straight up. It keeps, if you saw the plans, it basically just mimics, just raises it straight up with the same exterior look. Going back would be kind of quite an issue, because we have 2 front yards, since we are one of the roads on the lagoons. And then we would also might have a lot coverage issue also. So we figured at this point, the easiest way was just to go straight up. It's 3 bedrooms, nothing extravagant, small bedrooms, quite a bit of a closet area, because we have a very small basement area. It's mainly crawl space, which is the majority. Our total square footage is basically just going to double, which, if you're aware, in Shinnecock Shores, that is a very changing neighborhood where the houses have been just becoming much nicer and much larger, though, unfortunately. And, even at our 2,200 square foot, which would probably be about the max that we would be at, we're still, this week I counted probably 22 to 23 houses that had even much more square footage. Plus, that's not including decks and porches, which.
Two-story lots?
Yeah, And then there's 2 or 3 one-stories that are rather large. Actually, one right down the road from which was about almost 2,400 square feet. That's it. There's really nothing fancy going on.
It's a substantial amount of cubic relief.
Pyramid relief. So the one question I had, and I think probably the board wanted to know, is ceiling heights.
Ceiling heights are standard ceiling heights, 8 foot, nothing fancy.
First and second?
Yeah, well, the first floor kitchen living area was raised at one point back in, I believe, 2016, 2017 through a permit. But the second floor is going to be the standard ceiling heights.
But what's the first?
It varies because one part of it is open. So
what
that's
is
an
the
area
area?
where if you look
Well,
on.
what is it? I mean, maybe it has to be reduced.
I don't have
Is
the
it 12
exact height
feet?
of that. I do have the old plans, but I do not have them with me. So if you look,
Well, we would
this
want that
kitchen,
information.
okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it was substantial enough, they had to get a building permit to raise it, it could be very high. Raise kitchen ceiling to rafters, install 2 skylights.
Yes, well, that's some of that, that's going to be removed now, though.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's all coming out and,
Yeah. I
So the
mean-
first floor will be probably 9 foot, but the second floor will be 8 foot.
We need to know definitely.
Oh, that's fine.
And if it's 9 foot, I think we would probably want you to see what could be done about reducing that height. If it's in the range of about 2,500 cubic feet, generally, I think that's, kind of where,
Well-
we generally, what we accept. If it's more than that, we're gonna ask questions.
No, which is fine, and
Yeah.
then, after looking at it, I do notice that we can probably do a little bit more of a dormer type issue to cut down some of this,
Okay,
which I don't think is a major ordeal.
okay.
It's not really gonna cut down, we're still gonna have the same square footage anyway, so it's not like we're going to, it's just gonna, it's just, it's a, what's that?
It's the whole second floor.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
exist now.
Yeah.
I
We
actually
didn't
went to
have-
the
I don't have
property.
the elevation.
Okay.
I didn't
Yeah,
have-
Adam, I went to the property,
Okay,
very small lot.
Yes.
right.
I think the pyramid relief is way too much for that lot. And there's no requirements, not in a flood zone, so there's nothing
No,
that
that
jacks
I'm
it
aware
up
of.
for that.
Yeah.
And, I know that you said that there were a number of, but it's a huge, Shinnecock Shores is a huge area, and many of the homes, many, are still 1-story, and not large. I mean, I know you were making reference to some additional, they may have had larger lots, too. I mean,
The majority of them are the same, except, I think when you go down to like Shinnecock at the end.
well, if you go
or
to
those-
Shinnecock, yeah, and they're right on the water, and they're
Yes.
very tall, and they have to be elevated
Right, those
because
are-
they're
yeah.
right on the water. They've all got, they're all on pilings. So, it's a beautiful area, it's absolutely beautiful.
It is.
But I think that over 4,000 for a small lot like that is too much pyramid. I would not be in favor of that size of pyramid.
Understood, but listen, this was the, first offering, so.
Yep. Of
Okay,
course,
yeah,
of course.
no, we get
We'll
it.
come back with the second offering, Kathy.
What's the most recent survey date? I just want to make sure. I have that.
I believe it's April, but almost a year old. I have April
April
20.
22nd.
Yeah, took 22.
But it's going to be a proposed 2-story, right?
Yeah, this is he didn't mark it on this one.
No.
Yeah, it's no good.
Okay.
All right, yeah. We need
Glad I
to-
can
But
have
you're
done
gonna
this
be
week, that's not.
working on it anyway. so,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What is planned in the areas of largest encroachment?
Bedrooms, if you look on,
Three bedrooms.
yeah, it's all bedrooms, except for the middle of it is a closet area. So each end of the house,
But you're
Yeah.
not increasing the number of bedrooms? is what you
No.
said?
No, it's just
No,
doing
you're
the
just
downstairs.
we're
putting
doing the
them
dining,
upstairs.
dining room downstairs and like a little den, if you look on page 1, which in this front right-hand corner is a den/media room, and then it's a very small kitchen, and then this is just open living space, so.
So I think, ceiling heights.
Yep.
And possibly, roof design are I think, 2 ways of getting that number down. And, if you can do that and still end up having the
Right,
space
same
that you
split.
need, then hopefully that will work. But I think we would want it, reduce significantly the amount of pyramid relief.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I think there's ways around it, but,
Yeah.
you know, just once we started it in motion and put it in, the idea was just, we'll figure it out at the
Yeah.
time, because, you know, time is a little bit. So we're going to do that, and we're going to redo the survey, Katie,
Yeah,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
right.
Yeah. What we talked about, when you're gonna come back, I wanna see if there's anyone here, but also any other questions or comments. Is there anyone from the public who's in the boardroom this evening who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Perino? This is for property located at 28 Bonita Road in East Quogue. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with, again, the application of Perino, for property located at 28 Bonita Road in East Quogue? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Okay, thanks. Okay, then the only other question is when you would like to come back.
Yeah, when do you want to come back? You've got some,
Yeah, but I've already kind of put it into motion a little bit. The survey I can have done in a week.
all right, but that's not the.
Right,
we need
but
to
the
look at
plans-
pyramid.
The plan's
I mean,
gonna
it's-
take longer.
Yeah, but we've been
Yeah.
playing with them, so there are other options.
You have iterations.
Yeah.
Can I suggest that we do it in the second meeting in May?
518?
Yeah, that's fine. I have to start conservation anyway, so I don't think that's gonna be the end of the world.
Okay.
518, that's,
So
You
we're
have, so
going,
you haven't been to conservation yet?
only initial, and I
Oh,
knew
yeah.
that's why we started the.
Okay, yeah, he needs time, because you
should
need that
we push
resolution.
it off more than the 18th?
518 is good.
Yeah,
'cause
518 is good.
That'll encourage them to go before the conservation.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's all ready. I was just waiting to get the
Feel
the
from
Board of
this
Health stuff
Okay.
Yeah.
in line.
All right, so we're
Because I knew
going to,
that's what he was gonna ask for.
so I'm going to move that we hold this open until 5:18.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly. Ms. Burgess.
I
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much. Have a rest of your night, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 on the agenda is HB Beach House LLC, 23A Oakhurst Road, in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-191-1-10. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for the proposed extension of the second floor deck on a non-conforming lot. 1, 330-11, Residence District Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a total lot coverage of 23.8%, where 20% is required, and 330-84D, pyramid height law for an encroachment in the amount of 178.3 cubic feet, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
Okay.
Pass this to John.
Just have to swear you in if you can state your name and address. Yes. Please. Oops.
John.
Okay. Whenever you can just state your name and address.
Edward Wolfersdorf
Yep.
at Post Office Box 429, East Quogue, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so swear.
Okay, thank you so much. If you can tell us about the application.
Yes, the Valentinos are trying to add a second floor deck on the water side of their house, front yard, and it's over an existing deck. It has a certificate of occupancy, so but it creates a little lot coverage because it's a roof. The underside of the deck.
Oops.
No. Try again.
That was quite an entrance.
Anyhow, the deck would provide him with an area out on the deck that's covered from, protected from the rain or the elements. And on the upper portion, it would be an open deck coming out of the master bedroom. The columns are holding the deck up. It'll have clear space. It's not going to be screened in or enclosed. To minimize any obstruction of view from either side, there'll be a wire fence stainless steel wire fence around the deck, and then on the second floor, it's just a continuation of the roof that that comes down, but it's just a 6-inch thick wall, 8-inch thick, so it's not, doesn't really have a lot of cubic feet to it. It's just a,
Yep, very, very little pyramid relief being requested.
Very little.
it's,
178.3. Yeah, so, and this is a very small lot. This lot is, my notes are 5,433.
very narrow lot.
Yep, yep. Okay.
Not
So,
that-
which I think probably the small size of the lot is what's generating the request for lot coverage relief?
Yes,
Okay.
which is a
3.8%.
I mean, it's, granted, it's lot coverage, but it's over an existing deck.
Right.
It doesn't count lot coverage, so it's
Right, right.
already covered.
So it's not like taking, encroaching on new area. This is
Exactly.
existing area, just
Yes.
roofing it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, I have photographs of the properties from the beach that
Yeah, and submit
You
to
give
our
them to
attorney.
Katie. Just,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you. Thank you.
As you can see from the photographs, the house on the east, to the east of this, the neighbor, has already been granted a variance from this board in 2018 to build a very similar structure. It's a roof deck coming out of a second floor bedroom and covering the first floor porch. The house to the west does not have that. It's a flush straight, but has a similar deck. And so we think that we've tried to minimize the encroachment of the pyramid law and lot,
I consider it to be a pretty modest application. I mean, one can make a bit of an argument about the lot coverage, but to me, with what this is, to me, that lot coverage relief is not going to impact the neighbors. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Did anybody ask you about whether you needed a conservation board permit?
I'm sorry?
Do you need a conservation board permit?
Go ahead.
Do you have to go to the con board, Ed?
Yes.
Huh? Yes?
Where you already put in an application for the permit, they were denied.
To the conservation board?
Conservation was out there I got an email from Kristen that said that they were out already very recently on a fence or something that they were doing, and he thought that that was okay. I can get a letter from him.
No, do you need a permit for this project?
Yes,
You do. Have you filed for a permit for this project?
yes.
Okay. Are you close to getting? This board won't grant variances until you have a conditional resolution of approval. Are you there?
We have, we have a letter of denial from the building permit requesting us to get a variance. for-
No, the Conservation Board.
Right,
The Conservation Board. Did you file an application with them?
not yet.
Okay, so we're not going to be able to do anything with this application until you file the application and we have a response to them, which basically is that they're not necessarily, it doesn't have to be the final permit, but at least that they are going to approve it.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think they had a letter of
Well, if it's a letter of non-jurisdiction, if it turns out that you don't need a conservation board approval, then that's fine, submit that. But we would need either or, either that they don't have jurisdiction over it or basically conditional approval.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't know which it is? I mean, if you need a conservation board permit, then we'd have to adjourn this for like 2 months. If you think you're gonna get a letter of non-jurisdiction,
Then that will be quick. So,
Yes, I'll check my records. I'm pretty sure we have that. I will
Okay, meaning you have a letter of non-jurisdiction?
Yes.
So, okay, because
I don't know.
Katie had asked before whether you need a conservation board approval.
Daphne
and-
said she could answer this question for us.
Okay, hold on a second.
I mean, it may, I'll make sure.
And if
that
you
I get it.
disagree with Daphne, you can we'll strike her testimony.
Okay. Okay, Daphne, I just have to swear you in. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning, well, I used to work for the owner of this property.
Perfect.
Okay, and your address?
Oh, sorry, 225 Montauk Highway, 3220, Mauritius.
Okay, and if you swear, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so if you can give us some clarification on
Yes.
this
So,
application and conservation board.
I recognize the property because I did obtain a letter of non-jurisdiction for the owner for a fence, I think about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, I don't know, it's all blur, but I do know this property, and I did obtain a letter of non-jurisdiction from the Environment Division for this property, that should be on record.
So the fence is even closer to the wetlands than this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all
So it's
right.
likely, you should submit it, or you should see if,
will.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if he speaks to the Environment Division, they may, in fact, maybe modify that or just say that he doesn't need a further letter of non-jurisdiction
Right.
because that would be further than that fence.
Thank you.
Okay,
Daphne.
okay, all right,
Anytime.
okay, appreciate it. Okay, so it sounds to me like we're in okay shape with that conservation
Yes.
board, which is
I know
good
I had a
news, good
verbal
news for you.
equivalence.
So just follow up with them and get them to, I mean, we make a referral to them anyways.
Right.
But it's better for you if you can speed it along.
Yep, yep, okay. All right, so with that, I want to ask, is there anyone who is here in the public who'd like to be heard in connection with this application? This is for HB Beach House LLC for property located at 23A Oakhurst Road in Hampton Bays. Come on up, or you can have a seat, whatever you prefer. And I just have to swear you in, unless
up
you're
to
an
you.
attorney.
Well, I
You can
have the photo, so I'd like that.
No
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Okay?
Any photos you have, you'll have to give
Yeah,
to Kate.
yeah. So unless you're an attorney, I just have to start by swearing you in. You can state your name and address?
Constance Heinzeling, 345 East 86th Street, 60, New York, New York, 10028.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Yes.
truth? Okay, you can have a seat and tell us what you'd like to tell
Dennis,
us
do you
about
have
the
that last name?
application.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I am one of the owners of the house to the west of
Okay.
23A Oakhurst Road. We do have an objection to the plan variance
Mhm.
based on the fact that we don't believe that there is any hardship to the owner to expand this balcony. They do have an extensive deck, and there would be a hardship on our end because the properties are adjacent. So this shows photo of the existing balcony that the owner has when they acquired the property. This shows their existing deck on the ground level, which extends way beyond any other deck on that beach area. This shows, again, another photo of their deck. It is the only one on the beach that juts out many, many feet beyond
You're
the
talking
other
about the
decks.
the existing deck?
Right.
There's nothing we can do about that existing
Right.
deck.
No, I know, we're not here to dispute that.
Okay.
That was installed by the prior owner.
I understand.
Not the current owner.
And that's, at this point, neither here nor there, although I appreciate the information.
And this shows our deck, which is exactly adjacent to their existing deck. So the actual installment of something on the second level would interfere with our area. So that is our objection. And
Interfere with your area how?
in that it would be right up next to our second-story window, a bedroom on the second floor. And my other family member is going to speak to that now.
Okay. Okay.
So
If you'd
can
like
I
to submit
submit
those,
these?
yes,
Yeah.
we can, to our attorney. Okay,
And
anything
with-
else you'd like to tell us?
Just that we don't believe, based on the pyramid law and the lot tolerance, that variances are
granted due to hardship. I don't see any
The
hardship
variances,
to.
variances are granted or denied, I can't even talk tonight. Variances are considered by our board based on the 5-part area variance standards. Okay, so it's a 5-part test that we look at and we're required to look at in connection with any application for variance relief. I don't know that hardship in and of itself is, or any one factor in and of itself is determinative. We look at the 5 factors of the area variance standards, just so you understand.
Right, no, correct,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
am familiar with the Southampton code, and if hardship is one factor. Okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you for comments. Okay. Good evening. Just
Good evening.
Swear you in, if you can just
Absolutely.
state your name and address.
Justin Becker, Co-Pilot Design, 420 East 80th Street, Manhattan, New York, 10075.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and
I
nothing
do.
but the truth?
Beckert, Beckert. Thank you.
Okay, and give
I
some
believe I
comments.
can clarify a little bit on what she meant by hardship.
Okay.
I do believe you had quite a more involved set of drawings. If I could ask those be delivered to the family so they can see
Okay, well,
what
let's
is
start by
planned.
giving your comments to us.
Initially, we only have this overall survey.
Okay.
If you see, the comment of hardship that was being brought up is because their deck does extend beyond, which was a prior issue. The Heinzerling deck at 19 stops at about half short. As you can see on their proposal here, their new deck, and specifically the roof, will almost fully encompass the western flank of the deck, meaning that basically at all times in day, things like cross breezes, something very important while you buy waterfront property, and shade and privacy, now that there's a second floor balcony hanging over, will compromise, I believe, the livability and saleability of the deck, which is something, as she pointedly corrected out, is mentioned in pyramid
Saleability,
laws.
you have information from a real estate
I
broker on property
believe.
values?
Okay, I won't say that, but I will assuredly stand by that it will affect the livability of the space, as it will during certain hours of the morning remove the option of whether or not you're in shade or in sun. And specifically, it's the privacy issue, I think, that the family is most concerned with, because at this point, almost directly abutting against the property, about 4'8" from the building line, there will be about 12 feet up. That's my estimation. As I said, we don't have better drawings. Someone can just be looking over, peering down, and I believe that is the concern. More importantly for me, however, isn't specifically these 2 plots. And it actually comes from something the gentleman had mentioned, that the plot to the east received a similar variance not too long ago. And my concern is their request is contingent on the fact that the property is non-compliant, narrow, and waterfront. The reality is that is true of almost every single property that runs Oakhurst Street, Oakhurst Lane, there we go, sorry. If you go 10, 15 buildings in either direction, that is true. My concern here is, since this family does believe that their deck will now be less livable, it will start a cascading effect where property by property by property, we slowly breach these plot and pyramid laws to the point where the effect with which they were put, which was to make a friendly community where everyone felt they weren't being imposed on, at some point they no longer function if we just, and I know it's technically, it is the legal manner to do it, but I would be remiss not to mention that I do believe that this will start an effect that will run where property managers will use each of these projects as precedent. My neighbor did it, my neighbor did it, my neighbor did it, to the point where we will have significant change to the quality and characteristics of the neighborhood. And I truly believe that's not arguable.
Should we maybe suggest the town board to pass a law to ban second-story decks throughout the town?
Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying specifically, when the pyramid laws do talk about maintaining the quality and character of a neighborhood, my concern is that, as I said, this precedence of small but breaches into the pyramid laws will create an effect where the characteristic, the waterfront, communal, collective nature of this area, which is what I grew up in, everyone was very communal, beach parties, all the neighbors would gather together, right? These types of town meetings creates slight but realistic hostilities between neighbors, and I am concerned that if each property can keep using the prior property, the neighbor, as a precedent, it will be at a detriment to the neighborhood.
The
I would note
problem is,
one-
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I would just note one thing. Based upon the pictures that we're looking at, there's really no screening, not much screening between the decks as they stand. So it seems to
Yes,
me that, hold on,
sorry.
I'm not done. It seems to me that one person can be looking at the other person barbecuing on their deck at any point in time. I mean, looking at this photo right here, the person standing on this deck can look right at the person standing on that deck and this person standing on the following deck. So I'm not
May
so
I say
sure
that
that I
question?
really understand your argument with regard to keeping the character or creating
And that's fine.
hostilities
I
between
understand.
people.
I
because-
understand that that is a concern that I may have solely. It is what I have trained and practiced for. Most of my training has been in shared public and private space, more focused towards the city, but it is something that is absolutely applicable to all neighborhoods. So when I saw this, it just set off a little trigger in my alarm, and as I said, I would be remiss not to mention it to the board.
Can I get a point of clarification? You're proposing to put a deck above the existing, are you proposing to cover the entire wooden
No.
deck? How many feet comes out on the deck?
Well, it does cover the second floor deck, correct?
According to the survey, I believe it's 12 feet.
The existing second floor deck is actually cut out into the roof. The roof comes down.
Can we call it a balcony? For clarity's sakes.
The roof comes down and there's a notch cut into it, and that's where the existing deck is. They propose to come out to make that a little larger.
According to your survey, it appears to be about a 12-foot proposed
12-foot.
second-story deck.
Yes.
The wood deck that is the existing juts out much further
Yes, the existing deck.
to the bulkhead.
So it's not gonna cover the entire,
No, there's a.
Their entire deck, yes.
No.
entire deck?
As mentioned, it was an issue dealt with a prior owner that their deck extended further.
Right.
No attempt to fight that. But since the 19A Oakhurst Road property
Yeah.
does end at the initial line that they were told to end the deck at, this extension does get very close to full, I cannot give you the exact number, as I said, it is missing from this drawing, unfortunately.
And I also just wanted to clarify one other thing, which is that the primary relief that's being asked for isn't pyramid relief. The pyramid relief is 178.3 cubic feet, which is very, very minor. It's the lot.
I won't
coverage.
argue that.
It's the lot coverage relief. So the lot coverage relief goes from 20% to 23.8%, the total lot coverage. So that's the primary relief that's really the subject of this application, not the pyramid.
Sure, I may have been using pyramid to encompass both, and I apologize.
But it nevertheless is variance relief. And so, you know, we certainly can consider the impacts on the neighbors. And I believe that the prior testimony we got was the concern was that this second-story deck would impinge upon the privacy of the neighbor's use of her second story.
The privacy and usability, and the deck itself.
But when I look at this, the balcony already is parallel to the house that, you know, you're
Yes, the
referring to.
I don't believe anyone has an issue with the existing
Moving it out
balcony.
further, it's the privacy's already compromised, is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
I would argue that's not necessarily the case, but if that's how you see it, that's how you see it.
Yeah, but I think what you'd like to do is have us to deny the variance and have it be the
I
exact
would
way it
not,
is.
I would not by any means say my concerns are enough for a denial. As I mentioned, my primary concern was bringing this up because, as I understand it, I would recommend to the 19A Oakhurst property that they should go through the same process as this and get an extension to their deck as well, which is fine. Like I said, my concern is then the cascading effect of that. But if that is not a concern of the board, then I will drop it.
Well, it may be that the lot coverage numbers are different than on other adjacent lots. Maybe they're all exactly the same size, and maybe they're not. It could be that many of these properties can get a second-story deck without any variance relief at all. It's entirely possible.
I'd like to ask you, there's going to be a wall, correct? According to your plans. It looks to me like there's a wall, somewhat of a wall.
Yes, what's in red is a continuation of the roof.
And I'd
It's a
love to know,
shingled wall
do we know what that,
or a vinyl
what the
siding.
height of that will be? I can't tell that from here, unless it's here. So there will be some amount of screening.
Well, the wall probably has a 5 or 6 foot height at
At the
the high
top.
end, and then it goes down to 0 or down to the gutter size at the other end. So it's a triangle.
Right, and where you have where if you notice it says that there are rail on posts, that would be the furthest one could walk out onto this deck. So one could be here, sir. Here, that's the
Right,
furthest
that would
point at
prevent
which one
anybody
could.
from falling off the deck
Right.
and meet building code.
So I have, I'm sorry.
No, I was
Okay.
just clarifying that.
But
So
to
there
answer
is
the-
some screening.
Yeah, so, Ed, I ask this often when we have neighbors who are unhappy, is would you be willing to have, and your client be willing to have a conversation with these two neighbors who apparently are very unhappy, to see if there's anything that could be done
I would-
to
yes.
address their concerns?
No, this is me.
Okay.
Well,
Don't mind.
would you be willing? I am not the person to contact about that, would be.
Okay.
Just representing
Who are you representing?
the family. I am a nephew,
Oh, okay.
a son/nephew.
Okay.
I would argue
And you
too that-
represent, and of the person in the blue house?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I only suggest that not because I necessarily have an issue with the application, as much as, we want neighbors to be able to get along with each
Oh,
other.
absolutely, and I
And
think
Yeah.
Dr. Valentino likes his neighbors. He wants to, he
Speaking
has
of which-
spoken to them already.
Is there a chance we could get a copy of these drawings? Because we really do only have this, so we have no idea.
You
We've
both
been-
can deal with that outside?
Sure.
And, yeah, I would suggest that maybe the two of you talk and there's some kind of.
The three of you talk, or how, yeah. the
Three
two
of you talk.
Or however.
And maybe there's something you can come up with regard to some additional screening.
Okay. Because the property faces due north, practically, I guess, and so do all the others. And the sun comes up southeast, goes across, and then, in the most of
Perfect
the
place
year,
for some potted plants.
there really isn't any blockage of, no shadow coming
Right,
on.
but I think the primary concern that at least I got was, privacy of the neighbors' use of the second floor.
Well,
So
and I-
maybe there are things that could be done.
I think in the photographs there shows some evergreens that are planted
There
on
are
both
some
sides of
5 or
the-
6 foot arborvitaes, yes, that were planted within the last few years.
Yeah.
They grow.
There used to be no fence there between the properties, but.
So that I
a-
guess, will
An additional was put up. when the
mitigate
new
some of the
family-
privacy issues if you're on the first floor deck for both neighbors.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
All right, so, is there anyone else, first want to ask, is there anyone else from the public who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is again HB Beach House LLC for property located at 23A Oakhurst Road in Hampton Bays? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 23A Oakhurst Road in Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one on Zoom? Okay, if not, John, it's yours.
Me. Should we hold it for written submission, considering the question about this letter of non-jurisdiction?
I think we should keep it open.
Or would you rather keep it open?
My inclination is to close the written subs and reopen it if necessary.
If necessary, okay.
You know.
Okay, so I move to close the hearing on this application, have written submissions due by April 21st with a decision by May 4th.
Okay.
Second.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burtis.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for being here. Feel free to have a conversation in the hallway. I'm hoping maybe you might come up with a resolution to the neighbors' concerns. Thank you. I know.
Item 6 on the agenda is 6 Bayview Drive LLC and Jacqueline Cress. 61 and 65 Bayview Drive in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-32-1-23 and 27. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed lot line modification. 330-11, Residence District Table of Dimensional Regulations for proposed Lot 1, a lot area of 6,800 square feet, where 40,000 square feet and a lot width of 57.51 feet where 150 feet is required. And proposed lot 2, a lot area of 15,865 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and a lot width of 72.51 feet where 150 feet is required, and 330-82, a lot width to allow a flagpole width of 15 feet where 20 feet is required. 3, for the existing dwelling on a proposed lot 1, a principal rear yard setback of 64.9 feet where 70 feet is required. 4, for the proposed dwelling on lot 2, 330-11, a principal total side yard setback of 42 feet where 60 feet is required, and 2, 330-84D pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 833 cubic feet on the south side. 5, for the proposed swimming pool, 330-11 for an accessory front yard setback of 34.8 feet where 70 feet is required, and 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required front yard for the principal building. Excuse me. And 6, 330-83A, 4, to allow a deck higher than 1 foot above ground level to be located within the required front yard, and any other relief necessary.
4 has jurisdiction. Wait 1 second. So these are just a couple copies of what you gave me, right? All right, so Adam, this is the original
I'll
and
explain
an
with the
extra,
bottom.
and then we only have 2 copies of all of these, Adam, so I would recommend you keep one.
Okay.
And then whoever else wants one. It's
Well,
just,
Wayne
Wayne will tell us what it
on
is.
the board or what?
Looks like a little bit of reading material.
It's
Been
just,
watching the Masters, you could have done doing that today.
It goes to the one at the end of the table, and that is you.
yeah, just,
I can explain, I was trying to lighten the load, but.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, board members, Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin, on behalf of 61 Bayview Drive LLC and Jacqueline Kress. With us tonight is Jacqueline Kress. And also, I believe on Zoom is Bruce Anderson from Suffolk Environmental, who's been assisting us in this application. So I want to highlight and
let me just get, is Bruce, can you just get Bruce on Zoom? Bruce Anderson?
We're in a rush for Bruce?
Go ahead, I just figured if he's on there. might-
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. So I'll give you a little background, and this has been a project long time coming. First of all, this application involves 2 single and separate lots, one owned by 61 Bayview Drive, which is tax lot 23, and 65 Bayview Drive, which is tax lot 27. The properties are located on the northwesterly side of Bayview Drive, which is a private road, and just opposite the West Shore Drive road, whichever document is shown, which is also a private road. And it's about 250 feet northwest of Peconic Bay Avenue, which is a town road in the hamlet of North Sea. The zoning district is R40. What we're dealing with is 2 parcels. Tax lot 23 or 61 is 8,300 square feet. It is a flag lot with a 15-foot flag pole, and its lot width is 72 feet. That parcel also fronts on Peconic Bay. And we'll talk about the existing improvements in a second. The other lot, tax lot 23, is a 14,362 square foot lot with a 57.5 foot lot width, and that fronts right on Bayview Drive. These lots were created by a decision of the zoning board in 1972. Both lots are improved with single-family dwellings, most notably on tax lot 23, what we'll call the waterfront lot, the flag lot. It's improved with a dwelling that sits on piles and has decks and it is approximately, based on the 2019 mean high water line, which I sort of outlined in red here, and you can see on all the plans, is approximately 22 feet seaward of the high water mark. And very often, the bay is underneath this dwelling. And it's been this way, if you look at the aerial photographs, the character of the area which we submitted with the applications, I do have a colored one and a little blow up. The reason for that, you'll notice just to our southwest is the inlet to Roy's Pond, I believe it is. And the area adjacent, if you're not familiar with that area, is very susceptible to high erosion rates. This board and the DEC and others have had long-standing questions of steel bulkheads and the like in that area. When you go north, immediately you'll see most of the lots have rock revetments. There's one vacant lot, and then immediately on the west side of Peconic Bay Avenue, you'll see the rock revetment there. The next two lots to the east or north of Bayview Drive are bulkheaded, very tiny lots. There is a small sliver of this lot behind that is not bulkheaded, and then you have our property, and you can see the house basically sitting in the water. As you go further to the northeast, there are several lots that are also not bulkheaded, but then further north, there is a long line of lots that are all bulkheaded. So what's happening here is as we've heard in this coastal dynamics, is that there's been erosion occurring along this beachfront, which has resulted in this house basically below mean high water.
I'm sure we're having new structures, that's all. Rock revetments, that's what's going
Yeah,
on.
well, believe me, my client, that was her first question, why can't I go and do a rock revetment like the others? And that was quickly squashed by DEC and others. As you can see on the aerial photographs, these lots are entirely cleared. However, years ago, vector control, and if you're familiar with this area, Bayview Oaks and the like, to our north and east, it is a higher elevation and slopes down. And then you have this area sort of flat, low-lying that leads up to the beach, but the beach area is being a little higher. So what happens is there's an area, a shallow system of pool, which collects water. And there are wetlands, a lot of wetlands. In particular, behind us are a lot of wetlands where the town has acquired property. Vector control, we're told, in the 30s, 40s, or 50s, whenever they did that, out there digging mosquito ditches, went in this area. And now there is a mosquito ditch that runs along our northerly line, which over the 30, 50 years since they did that has become a wetland. So this property is encumbered, and you see this green line is the line on our side of the property where there's wetlands. And the property immediately to our north also has wetlands, not only along that same line, but also closer to Shore Road, Bayview. We'll get to what happened with their redevelopment, which went both before Conservation Board and this board, and was granted relief. So this property's encumbered with wetlands. It's totally undersized. I have a house in the water, and you can imagine what we've been doing for the last 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 years. But we started with the town planning board because the proposal we thought was wise and was guided by other experts was to engage the planning board in a lot line transfer. Because the lot on the street was much larger, there was an opportunity to transfer land from that lot to make this lot bigger so we could relocate, reconstruct a house in a more conforming location. So we submitted an application to the planning board, and the planning board engaged in the normal pre-application review with hearings and that process, and Anthony is here, he can attest to it, he was participated in it most of the time. They made referrals to the town engineer, the Environment Division, Conservation Board, and a lot of discussion was about drainage in this area and where the wetlands were. And this is the proverbial balancing act. This is the balancing the area variance test requires. So the proposal that we have, and of course we have flood zone, we have the existing house split between the VE zone, high velocity in the middle, obviously in the bay, but then we have the VAE 6, where base flood elevation is 8, and that's for the entire property. So we have all the elements, plus the health department. So moving the house, we have septic systems. Actually, I wouldn't call it a septic system. I'll say there's 2 cesspools immediately to the south. And they're actually partially under the current gravel driveway, and that, there's no septic tank associated with that. And similarly, there's a septic tank for the front house. So what we did is we spent 2 years with getting input from the planning board, and they adopted a pre-application report. This plan evolved and morphed to the point that we have this plan here. We had a garage proposed. There was different configurations of the house and the pool on the side yard and the like. And this was essentially what I believe the planning board, who in this case, by the way, because it's a transfer of property, they don't know where to draw the lot line unless you know what kind of redevelopment is going to occur. And this is something they've done occasionally. And since the redevelopment of this parcel is an integral part of designing where that lot line is, they assumed approval authority under the Chapter 325, the wetlands. They thereafter adopted their pre-application report, and a copy of that is here. It was approximately a year ago. We submitted this application last June, and at some point this is considered an unlisted action. There was coordination with the planning board and this board, and about a month ago the planning board adopted a negative declaration, and I submitted a copy. I understand you also have a copy in your file. So the relief, what is intended, it sounds like there's a lot of relief here. However, I point out is if we didn't touch the lots and it was a pre-existing lot, we'd be entitled to the 330, 115D, 3/10, 4/10, and other relief like that. However, that only applies to a pre-existing lot. Since you're involved in the transfer of property, it doesn't apply. But we would have needed all this relief if we kept the lot line the same. So it looks like a lot of relief. And it sounds like a lot of relief, but in essence, when you look at the existing lots and the totality of the circumstances, you'll see that the relief, we tried to gerrymander and modify and balance and compromise. And I believe the planning board, we did everything, and we're here generally based on their recommendations. This application requires planning board approval, DEC approval, health department approval, and this board. So we're balancing all those. Just so you know, we're in front of the DEC, they're waiting for your decision. We're in front of the health department, they're waiting for your decision. They were also waiting for the seeker decision, which was rendered. So what are we doing? The proposal is to transfer approximately 7,565 square feet from the rear lot. And we have a series of maps. This was the map that shows existing conditions. And you can sort of see how it shows the proposed transfer. So it's this block in here, that 5,667 square feet that we're trying to transfer from the rear lot with that cottage house on Bayview Road to the flag lot. And just so you know, the setback from the existing house in the waterfront lot.
That's the front one.
The front. Yeah, so right now, the existing lot line is here.
Yeah.
So the setback is 27 feet. So the first question is, why can't you just pick the house up and move it back? Well, how far are we gonna move it back? We could move it back 27 feet, have a 0 lot line, but what are we gaining? The setback would be still about 10 feet from the mean high water mark. So we're not really gaining anything positive. So that's what pushed us to the lot line transfer. So what we're asking for, first instance, is the variances to shrink the current lot, which is non-conforming. I don't think we need a variance necessarily, but we put it in there to expand the area for this lot. But, and I noticed the building inspector had you notice what he thought was additional relief, which it's an existing 15-foot flag, so we're not changing that. So I don't think we need relief to create a lot with a 15-foot flag, but nonetheless, he put that in the notice. Also, that existing waterfront lot, we're not changing the lot width. It's already existing 72, we're just expanding the area. So we didn't really need those relief, but that was noticed. But we did say, but the other relief is, because we're not only looking for the lot line transfer, we're looking for the redevelopment lot. And the planning board needs to know that this could be built. And the only way we can do it is then with the appropriate side yards and rear yards and setback from the water line, which is the front yard requirement. And, oh, by the way, when we do shift this line, we shifted the line to a point where the setback to the existing house on the front street lot would be 64 feet where 70 feet is required. So we need that variance as well. One of the things that came up from the planning board, which was important, was drainage in this area. And we heard from our neighbor to the west, Mr. Abrams, who is more familiar, lives right on the corner of Peconic Bay Avenue, has low area, and actually there's a little pond and wetlands on his property. But he told us about a project that the town engaged in trying to run drainage pipes out off of this wetland area, where the water would come off the wetlands to the northeast onto these private roads, flood them entirely. And so there was a drainage project, I believe it was engaged by the town to put drainage so it would pipe that overflow from those wetland areas would overflow into those drains and then drain down Peconic Bay Avenue and out to the bay. Not road runoff, but it was trying to catch that overflow of the wetlands. So that is out there. So
Did that happen?
I don't know. But this project here has also given the town engineer an opportunity, which they advised the planning board to review this and comment. And one of his issues was this whole area is one of those drainage areas, like a shallow area. So what happens when floods, it starts flooding and it just spreads. So his concern was impeding the natural flow of water here. And when we first started the project, because of the wetlands, we were trying to make sure, because if we have to do the septic, and I'll explain, we have retaining walls to put the septic in there to get the depth of groundwater. We had this all with retaining walls, and then the town engineer came in and said, no, we'd like to keep the natural flow of water, which may happen across this property. So our project changed, and this has been reviewed preliminarily and will be at the final stage reviewed again with the planning board and the town engineer, and they have the opportunity to add additional drainage requirements or whatever else is necessary. So, two things. One, you should know is that there's additional review by the planning board. All your variants will enable this lot line transfer for the planning board to do that, and then they can engage in both their wetland jurisdiction as well as their subdivision jurisdiction. As you can see, no matter what we do, we'll never meet any wetland setbacks here. So there was we engaged in a shape of the house and where pool and deck and all sorts of things. We even had a garage here, and the garage disappeared. And it disappeared because we were eliminating to allow the natural flow of the water. What we ended up with is just two retaining walls, both on the north and south sides of this area where the mounding for the septic system has to go. It is an IA system, and it'll be, the top of the wall will be 7.5 to 8 feet, and where the ground level is approximately 4 to 5 feet, depending on which side it is. So about 3.5 feet of exposure on a wall in those two areas. That was eliminated. The construction of the house is all going to be on piles. The house, the deck, the pool, all on piles. There's no bulkhead, no other activity. Unfortunately, we can't get that. So all that construction will be on piles. So there is a lot of positive environmental mitigation to the case here, be restoration of the dune and the like that'll be part of the final, when the house is moved. The amount of relief, again, we believe is not substantial. I do want to clarify something for the record. In January, we submitted, and I noticed the building inspector, and it was stated in the notice, about pyramid relief. The amount of pyramid relief was a total of, when we first submitted, 883 cubic feet. However, what we noticed in the architect's plans, and this can only have happened because there's so many plans, so many versions of the plans. But when it came time for us to gather all this and get it in there, her calculation, and if you look, the setbacks that she had for the house, and then what she based her original calculations, weren't the same as the plan.
That's what I thought too.
And so they were corrected, and we did submit this corrected pyramid drawing in January, which actually reduces the 883 to 427.
Significantly, yeah.
Significantly.
I was so confused by that.
Yeah. And so what you can see.
And this is accurate. This is current in fact.
Yes, absolutely. You'll see that the side yard setbacks, and this was also something with the planning board. At some point, they wanted us to shift the house back and forth, try to maximize wetland setbacks, the whole 6-8 feet or whatever it was, from that northerly side. And so there was a variety, like I said, there's 2 years of various plans. But
So what is the elevation of the first floor? You said it's going to be on pylon.
The proposed elevation will be at 12.
12 feet?
12.
Okay.
So one of the things I just can say to the board is that we can, we only gave you one pyramid elevation, and we had given you complete floor plans and everything else with the house. We can submit corrected ones that are all accurate and the same for that purpose. What else can I tell you at this time? Okay, as part of the submissions, one of the things, as we often done, is with respect to the part of the 5-part test, impact, the detrimental impact on the character of the neighborhood. We did a little analysis of the neighborhood in addition to what I just showed you and submitted the aerial photographs. We looked to see what was happening on our adjacent properties and nearby properties, and whether this board ever considered similar or granted similar relief. So the one submission is a map, a land use map that identifies areas where you granted variances, including pyramid variances, and we included the GIS record card, copy your decision, and so on. For the most important one, number one, is our property immediately to our east, northeast, owned by Joshua Picard. This board and the Conservation Board, it's a little larger lot, and you would think they wouldn't have such a problem. However, it's encumbered by the wetlands in the rear. And this board, when it was considering that and balancing, again, all the factors here, wetlands, bayfront, all these setbacks, you actually granted some zoning relief, you granted some pyramid relief to the extent of a little over 1,000 cubic feet, even though the lot was a little bigger. A little further to the northeast, there are a couple lots similar to ours, actually narrower, which was a factor you were talking about earlier. Application, one lot is 45 feet wide, another was 40. In those cases, you granted substantial relief of 5,412 cubic feet. Another one, you granted 7,440 cubic feet. So this, in comparison, you can sort of see, the narrower the lot, the likelihood there's going to be a greater pyramid thing, and we can see that direction. Nonetheless, the lot to our east by Mr. Picard, you granted 1,012 cubic feet, and the planning board, when we started this, we provided them copies of the Conservation Board, and that's all in your record too. Conservation Board decision, your decision, the site plan, and it's only recently that construction started. And when we came back a month ago in front of the planning board, all the planning board members were like, who had inspected the property, were like, what is going on next door? So we told them, we said this all along, that this is part of the issue is that there's other things happening in this neighborhood. And I included in the package some black and white photos, but I thought I'd give you some current photos of our site and what is going on next door. But I'll let you pass around, but quickly, this is at our entrance. 65 is the flag lot, and there's a gate on the driveway. This is the corner of the cottage, and this is looking to our northeast, and you can sort of see that there. This is a picture, and again, it shows our site. It's completely cleared, other than the vegetation along the wetlands to the north as well, but it shows you a little bit of the comparison of what is going on in the neighborhood. Now, granted, it's a larger lot, and they can build a larger house, but it significantly will dwarf what we're doing. So there's some photos here. I did say I put them in black and white, but here's some color
You can
ones.
give them to Katie.
Is there gonna be like a wetlands buffer anywhere?
Yes, the planning board will, as already discussed in their pre-app report. Our plans don't show anything at this point, but they will, and they indicated that they expect that. So particularly along the north line, so where you see the side of the house, other than an area, a maintenance area, there'll be a buffer along that whole side and up to the retaining wall. So that will be normal, and we expect that to happen.
And the building's gonna be about a little less than 10 feet from the wetland.
Correct. And again, the wetland, as we're talking about, was a former vector control, and
What is
it's
a
not.
mosquito ditch?
So back years ago, when everybody thought mosquitoes were a real problem, vector control out of the Suffolk County Health Department was created, and they were gonna control mosquitoes, and the way they thought they would do that was drain the swamps. So they went out and started ditches, and you can see on aerial photographs where these ditches are.
Destroy the
Straight
wetland.
Yeah. I mean, on this aerial, you
Yeah,
can,
let's say trenches.
trenches, ditches, whatever. So,
They also did spraying, I believe.
oh, on top of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's more recent, they were
Yes.
doing the spraying
Yes.
until they found that what they were spraying was
Yeah,
not
that's-
appropriate.
Yeah.
So two things, so, in addition to the five-part test, which we explained in the petition, I'm happy to answer further questions on that, but more importantly, another part of the test is whether there'll be an environmental impact. Well, one of the things which is important is how is this addressed under seeker? And the planning board did adopt a negative declaration, finding there would be no significant adverse impact with the project as designed. Now, of course, there's some elements to that. One is getting health department approval for the septic system, among other things. There is, so that is part and parcel of this. I don't know if you have any particular questions. Bruce Anderson is here, I think, to answer if you have any particular environmental question that was part of this.
Okay. Well, we can hear from Bruce, but Anthony wanted to get your thoughts.
Sure. Should I come up or should I stay right here?
Whatever you prefer.
My voice is loud no matter where I am, so.
Yeah. I have the same
I
problem.
understand.
I do too.
So we spent a long time in the planning board on this, as Wayne said. First, for the record, the planning board is very clear in their pre-app report. They 100% support any and all variances to get more lot area for this lot and to bring this house back. There's no other way to do it. This house has to get in the bay is basically what it is. The other thing that the planning board, it's a houseboat, exactly. The other thing is, no matter, once you apply wetland setbacks and property line setbacks, there is no building envelope on the property, no legal building envelope. So any structure that you build here is going to require relief. Wetland setback relief isn't this board's concern. The planning board, under the 325 law, is the wetlands approving authority. I have no doubt that the comments that you get from the conservation board, if it was referred to them, may be different than what the planning board stated in their report. But the reality is that the planning board's going to issue the wetlands permit on this property, period. So
And you did get comments from Marty in the pre-app, right?
And we
So-
did, and we absolutely do. As it relates to buffers and everything, basically what happens is, and this often comes out of the conservation board, is constrained lots like this, you build, and then basically everything, outside of that becomes the wetlands buffer, essentially. You do the best that you can.
I just want to comment on that. So for example, the entire frontage where the existing house is on the bay, other than a pathway, a walkway, will be buffer, be
It just helps
restored.
to see that, because then you see more constraints. That's why I was looking for it. I
Sure.
was like, there must be.
And notwithstanding the pool.
Right.
There,
The pool is elevated, so it's.
You
all
know,
in piles.
the planning board had a very lengthy debate with the applicant. They made multiple changes to the plan to get somewhere where the planning board felt comfortable with ultimately proceeding with a wetlands permit. The lot line change is a zero issue for the planning board. That's easy enough. It was the development, the planning board doesn't do a lot of these. So, we in this case, went to the town engineer. The gist of these issues is going to be making sure the drainage issues are addressed. It was even acknowledged, and I think even Marty's office to some extent acknowledged that the wetlands in this case are not to the extent wetlands that you would normally find in the woods, and these were sort of created as a result of drainage issues. So essentially, they're drainage areas is what's happened over the years. So to the extent that the vegetation associated with it and the how it functions is a little bit different than the standard wetlands. So for the planning board's perspective, move it back, and we'll do the best that we can with what we have.
Yeah.
But overall, the planning board, the reason why they're here now finally is because that wasn't the case initially. We worked with the applicant for the course of a year and a half, to get to a point where the planning board said, okay, here's the report, we're okay, proceed now, because now I'm piecing this all together here.
Yeah, it's a pretty, it's a very unusual application.
It is very
It
unusual.
is very extreme in terms of the circumstance with the house being in the water, in the water.
In the water.
I mean, that's really, that's just a terrible thing that we need to remedy, and so these are, challenges that are more than a little bit unusual in terms of what we typically see, what the planning board typically sees, but it sounds like a lot of effort's been put into this. And-
Rarely does the town engineer get into, at this level of looking at a project. They, look at the lot line change in a subdivision, but not the ultimate build out of the subdivision. This type of application, which is just a lot line change. So a lot of professional work went into addressing
And
this.
in addition, for the applicants and for those who are interested, I mean, it's not just our board that is kind of gonna have to give the green light to this thing, it's gonna be DEC, it's gonna be Health Department, and it's gonna be the Planning Board, so multiple agencies.
And I will say, the planning board will, as part of that process, see what the DEC says, right, obviously, and what the conservation board says as well. They're not gonna operate within their own little bubble. They will take the advice of all the professionals.
Yeah, so we just play a role in this project that is, to some extent, a smaller role than the other agencies, but this is to fix a major problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have the town engineer weigh in on it too, because so many times we hear from neighbors, it's gonna flood, and we say, oh, that'll be handled, but now we know there's actually gonna be a plan implemented with the subdivision, or the lot line modification.
And like I said, we did the negative declaration on that as well, so.
Yeah, and it's also good to, the fact that you can, there is a way there's a way to come to a solution to the problem. Because we had another application not too long ago with a big complex that is very much in danger of flooding, and they didn't have the option of going back. And so it was a different set of challenges, so. Anyway, I guess, anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, let's go ahead, questions.
Okay, all right. Is Bruce on Zoom, Kevin? Bruce Anderson?
We might not know.
Well, yeah, only if he wants to add something.
Okay.
No offense.
I'm good.
Another half hour.
Might be some neighbors.
Wayne did a fine job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have Bruce or no?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and of course, and you.
No problem, Kevin, no, don't mean to rush you.
So can I just clarify what our role is here? So you are looking for the zoning board to give the approval for the lot line and the shift and the setbacks and other things that are in.
Yeah.
Having received that, you then go back to planning board,
Correct.
and planning board then takes into account that we, assuming that we agree. And then what do? You issue a final?
The rest of
All the rest, right?
Well, yeah, they gotta get the health department.
No, I understand.
But yes,
DEC.
we will complete the process. Part of that process is we will also be issuing a wetlands
Lands
permit
permit.
for that waterfront
Yeah.
lot for a period of 3 years. In other words, our wetlands permits, the planning board's wetlands permit good for a period of 3 years. After 3 years,
They have to go
they have
back.
to go to the conservation board after that.
Right, right.
Okay.
So whereas.
So they have to build within 3 years in order to?
Yes.
Okay, it's not,
Right, right.
yeah, okay.
Strong
I mean-
suggestion.
But I mean, on a typical subdivision application, if it was just a straight subdivision application, we would grant whatever variants are needed for the structures, or maybe, something else, but you actually often, lot width and things that we
Right,
typically
right,
do.
right.
But then, usually that's it, they've already gotten DEC if they needed it, they've already gotten the other approvals, and it's just within the town,
Okay.
the
So
kind of
we're
parts of the
like,
town.
we're like one step towards the
Yeah.
resolution of this whole thing. Okay.
But this is a kind of a more,
Complicated.
more complicated in terms of more approvals are gonna be required after we're done.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so, okay. Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening, how is everyone doing?
Doing okay, just have to swear you in. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting, Main Street, Bridgehampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can give us your comments and insight about this rather interesting application.
Well, I can tell you a couple things. Number one, that my experience in this area with this lot and the adjacent lots go back probably 15 years. So I've been working for this individual as well as several of the neighbors over that period of time. I can tell you that this house, is literally half of it is in the water. And so there is a public health and safety standpoint about relocating away from the water, which this application achieves. I can also tell you that it's serviced by 2 cesspools that are on the beach or directly adjacent to the beach that are installed in groundwater, belting whatever sewage goes in directly into the bay waters. That gets corrected. I can tell you that we've had extensive conversations with the town engineer in addressing drainage concerns, and we anticipate working with town engineers further as we enter the final phases of our planning board application. On balance, this is, in my opinion, a very strong application because it takes all of the environmental problems of this site and addresses it in a very logical and direct way. And so, at the end of the day, if we're allowed to do this, the needs of the property owner are addressed, the needs of the environment are addressed, the needs of the overall regulatory scheme are addressed, and it's my belief that the neighbors benefit, because the house right now sits in everyone's view, and it would be, the new house would be substantially further back than where the present house already is. My opinion that the pyramid is minimal, and that this is something that so far all agencies seem to be on board with. I can tell you earlier today I received an email from the DEC simply requesting the seeker determination, which was rendered by the board a month ago. I will be sending that to them tonight or tomorrow morning, and for their purposes, the application is complete. I will also tell you, based on my experience with the DEC, I'm confident that they will approve the same plan that is in front of you. as will the health department, because remember that there's nothing on this property that complies with any environmental standard, any zoning standard, any public health standard. So it's, although it's a complicated application, it appears that everyone's moving in the same direction, and the town and the applicant and the neighborhood will be well served by that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments?
The other neighbors.
Okay, all right.
Want to ask if there's anyone from the public who's willing to be heard in connection with this application who's in the audience. This is for, the application is for the property located at 61 and 65 Bayview Drive in North Sea. The applicant is 61 Bayview Drive LLC and Jacqueline Kress. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? Again, 61 and 65 Bayview Drive in North Sea. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Okay?
You got people?
Two.
Too many.
Can you hear me? Sorry?
We can hear you, we can't see you yet, so you just have to, hold on. Okay, so we can hear you, but we can't see you. Maybe you can hit a button, start video? We can hear you, we just can't see you. And if we can't see you, you can still give testimony.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah, okay, but we're not gonna worry about you being able to see you right now. I don't want to, I just want to swear you in.
Have you heard?
If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
He might not be able to hear us. Madeline. I live at, our house is at 57 on Bay Avenue, immediately behind the applicant.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay, you can give us your comments.
Sure. First of all, I completely agree with everything that was said by Mr. Gruen and the engineer about the house needing to be moved back. It's in a very treacherous location right now. I had some concerns while we were being moved. I learned about this process. It's just been going on for quite some time. I just learned about it this week. On Monday, I was sent a notification by the attorneys that this application is being submitted, was going to be heard tonight. I would like an opportunity to see the architectural drawings. I'm concerned, as was stated earlier, I think the planning board said they were wondering what happened with that house next door to this one. I am too. I wasn't notified about that house, and it kind of looms in our backyard.
Well, I understand, but the house next door is not something we can do anything about if they don't have an application
Yeah,
before our board.
Yeah, you can hear me out though. So that's why I'm concerned about this one. So I'd like very much to see the architectural drawings. I called the attorneys yesterday and requested to see them. They said that they could not provide them, but I then called your board today, and I was told that by filing a freedom of information submission that I could get them, so I have done that. Hopefully I'll get the drawings soon. Again, I agree that the house needs to be moved back. I'm happy to see that being done, but I do have some minor concerns about that. The house at 61 behind it is right in our backyard. It's incredibly visible from our backyard. I understand I can't do anything about that. That's fine. But I also think that that lot size is being greatly reduced by this incline to put this house back. That that house should not be expanded in the future. I'm also concerned that the septic field that is being installed is fine. I had to do the same thing at my house, but it looks like the driveway is being raised to the level of the septic field, approximately 4 feet above where the driveway is now. am I actually concerned that cars would be distant with my backyard?
As for the septic, that is, that
I also wonder about the septic.
that involves health department. That is not something that is within our jurisdiction.
What, driveways?
No, septic systems.
Oh, okay. No, I understand that, but, it looks like the area of the septic field does not need to be, needs to include the driveway.
That's not something within our purview right now, sir.
But I can answer.
I think he just froze.
I think so.
Just had a car accident. Just
No,
had a car accident.
Okay. Okay, is there any, do you want to add anything else to your comments? Do you have any further comments?
Yes,
Keeps freezing.
I want to call you back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. We had a second, yes. Okay, so there we go. That's Bruce. That's Bruce. Okay.
Wait.
Kevin, do we have a second person waiting on Zoom?
We're joining right now. No, we have one more person after.
Okay, here we go. Okay, sir, I just have to, want to make sure we can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. So I just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney. Are you an attorney, sir?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Are you an
Yes.
Are you an attorney? Oh boy.
He can't hear us.
Can I start?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Are you an attorney?
No, I am not.
Okay. If you can state your name and address, please.
My name is Joshua Picard. I live in New York City, 82 Green Street, New York, New York, and at 11 Beach Road to the east of this applicant's property.
Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can give us your comments. Oh,
Yeah,
can
good
you,
evening.
hold on. Can you spell your last?
Property that runs the entire length.
Sir, can you spell your last name for us, please?
Picard, P as in Peter, I-C-K-A-R-D.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So I own the property that runs the entire length of the applicant property on the eastern side. I'm here to support our application and emphasize to the board the importance of this application to move the house literally off the beach and out of the water, as it remains a hazard when walking the beach, and that sometimes it's not even passable. I request that you approve the applicant, what she requires to make this move possible. It appears to me that the revisions she has made and the concessions she's made are acceptable to me and reasonable. I believe this will be a great benefit to the neighborhood and the public overall, and I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate your comments. So I'm not sure whether the other gentleman is coming back on Zoom or not. I guess Kevin, just let us know.
The other neighbor is.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay, thank you.
One more.
You have one more.
Mr.
Okay.
Abrams.
Mr. Abrams? Who's
The other,
on the other side? Oh, okay.
Okay.
one with the little pond.
Oh,
Okay. Feel free.
I'll be back.
Okay.
We'll still be here.
Come on, Keith.
I'm sure you will. The way it's going.
Okay, we can see you. Can you hear, can you hear us?
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Good evening.
Okay.
I just have to swear you in. Okay.
67 Peconic Avenue.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
We need his name.
Okay, if you can repeat your name?
Stephen, with a Abrams, A-B-R-A-M-S.
Okay, thank you. If you can give us your comments.
Okay. Well, I am the property to the west. And I have that retention pond, which I was
forced to build, and which I agreed with, which helped dry out the entire neighborhood. And there are pipes from vector control which run underneath the Crest property and probably located where the septic system is going. So we have to be very careful about not destroying that drainage.
Okay, well, sir, we indicated with another person speaking, we do not have jurisdiction over the septic system.
Well,
That-
understood.
Okay, that is health department.
So, I mean, there's multiple issues that I'm concerned about, that raising the property would force the water onto our property, which is lower. There's already water coming on other water besides the drainage coming on our property.
We were told that the town engineer also was reviewing this project to address the drainage. So the planner seems confident that the town engineer is mindful of that.
No, it's very important
Gotcha.
that it's done correctly.
Okay.
Because I put a lot of money over the years into that and had to change their pipes a few times when I can reconstruct it in '99.
Okay.
I've been on that property since '89, when the entire property was flooded. I have an acre and like 70% underwater.
Okay.
And it also, the water was up Davy Road. And up Davy Drive, which goes up to Moyer Road. So I helped drain that whole area out by putting in the retention area, the retention. So it's very important. It works, it continues to work.
Okay, what else would you like to tell us?
That's it.
That's it?
You know, that's my concern.
Okay, okay. Well, for what it's worth, the town code requires that any property owner retain any water absent an extreme weather event on their own lot. That's what the town code says, so the applicant is going to be required to do anything that the town asks them to do to make that happen, including whatever water retention needs to be done as part of the project. And as you heard previously, there are multiple government agencies involved with this application.
Well, I dealt with all of them.
Okay. Okay.
And it took years.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, I very much appreciate your comments. Have a good rest of your night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Anybody else?
Is there anyone else, Kevin, that's being, that's it? Okay.
So for the record, and perhaps the people that were there, I just want, I did talk to Mr. Madeline on the phone, and Mr. Abrams on the phone. With respect to architectural plans, I want to make sure, I didn't have something I could email to the gentleman. Certainly had hard copies, but nonetheless, I want to make sure we correct them, and I'll be happy to email them. I did ask the architect to send me something after he asked, and I think I got something about 4:30 this afternoon. Yeah. So I can email, I will contact him and do that. Respect to the other comments, driveway, drainage, and so on, obviously, the chairman just hit the nail on the head that we are subject to retaining any stormwater runoff generated, and that has already been raised by the town engineer, and we will have to, with the planning board and the town engineer, provide that appropriate drainage, including downspouts and gutters on the house, and then whatever else is associated with the driveway. So I hope that answers some of the questions, but I will, and I would just want the opportunity to submit to you also the revised, all the floor plans and elevations with the right pyramid number. Frankly, what happened was, I told you, was just the architect didn't have the right setbacks based on a prior plan, and when she adjusted that, it actually reduced something that you would have asked us to do, look and see how we could reduce the pyramid, and we achieved that. So unless there's any other questions, just for the record, I did provide a copy of all the GIS records for Mr. Abrams' property. It shows the wetlands what he had to go through, in addition to Mr. Picard's is in part of the file as well, who is the other owner who's to the east.
So the other gentleman, I believe it was Mr. Madeline, the one who was driving.
Driving.
So he wanted to get the plans and then be given an opportunity to respond. In my view, that can be a written response, but I guess my only question is how long it will take for you to get the plans to him, so he has a
It's
reasonable
possible I can
amount
get, like I said, I have to look at what the email the architect sent me at 4:30, and it's
Right.
possible I can call him tomorrow and get an email address, I can forward those to him tomorrow. If he's
Okay.
looking for hard copies, then I have to mail them or something.
Yeah, so the only question in my mind is, when, what we do in terms of written subs and decision. I want him to have an adequate amount of time to be able to submit any response he'd like.
You want to leave it open?
Well, I don't know if I want to leave it open, I just want to leave it open for written submissions.
Yeah, but just to give extra time.
To give him extra time to give us, submit something in writing. So, I mean, I don't know that he necessarily is opposed, I'm not sure, maybe he is, we'll find out. I mean, he hasn't seen the plans yet, I think he.
Yeah, so maybe like written subs to the 12th with a decision.
Yep.
At the next meeting is the 8th?
The 18th.
4th and the 18th?
So,
Yeah, so maybe written subs to the 12th and then a decision on the 18th?
or the 5th.
12th, what, you're
The 5th.
talking May?
May 5th,
April?
right after the meeting.
Yeah, because written subs are going into May.
Yeah.
Right now, we're on April 21st.
April
Oh, all right.
21st.
Right, so I was trying to give extra
him extra time, so,
So you
yeah.
want to May 5th?
You
And
could-
then May 18th, the decision?
Yeah, or you could do the 28th, and,
When's the written sub date?
so we're trying to figure it out.
My-
Sounds like we're seeing
I
the
would say
5th.
I think the 5th, it's
Yeah.
just a give.
May
give-
5?
Yeah,
And then decision on the 18th.
On the
Decision
18th, so let me make a motion, I'll make a motion that we close the application for, this is the application 61 Bayview Drive LLC and Jacqueline Cress, except for written submissions, the deadline for written submissions is end of business on May 5th, and we will have a decision ready at our May 18th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Mr. Tudhill?
Thank you.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Chris. Have a good night.
Okay, what are we up to?
All right. That's unbelievable.
Thank you.
On the re-advertised applications, item 7, we have Kelly A. Pike, FKA 210 LLC, 2 TP Street, Hampton Bays.
You shared your evening with us.
Where's it great to jump in?
I'm sorry, did you finish reading? I wasn't even listening.
No. Oh, tell them that we already did that.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night. Okay, good
Wait,
evening,
what
Daphne.
happened?
He didn't read that, did he?
You have to read it. This is re-advertised.
Oh, it's re-advertised.
I was like, did I miss it? Did he do it?
All right.
Here we go.
Kelly A. Pike, FKA 210 LLC, 2 TP Street in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-230-1-27.1.
Hold on. We
just lost all.
Yeah, as long as we have 4 people in the room.
I'm in the room.
Oh, okay. She's gonna
Okay.
hand tape. You okay, Keith?
Yeah, I'm fine. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for proposed swimming pools. 1, Town Code 330-34, Business District Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from street, front yard setback of 31 feet where 60 feet is required. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses. Tootsie Roll. And uses in all districts in 330-83C yards to allow the proposed swimming pool to be located within the minimum required side yard for the principal building. 2, for an existing wood deck on the southeast side of the property, 330-7016, 330-83C, to remain within the total required side yard, and 3, for an existing deck within steps to the southwest side of the property. 1, 330-7016, 330-83C, to remain within the total required side yard, and 2, 330-83A, 4, for a deck greater than 12 inches in height, located within the required front yard on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. You can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning, 225 Montauk Highway, Suite 220, Mauritius, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you so much. If you can, this is re-advertised, but if you can
Yes.
update us as to where we are at this point.
So, tonight, we're here to basically discuss the allowance for maintenance of an existing concrete patio and deck. Those are photos that the board had requested the last time we spoke. Located on the southeast corner of the existing residence, as well as an existing wood deck and steps on the southwest side of the residence, as part of a pending application for a zoning variance for the installation of a new swimming pool. To be located on the northern side of the property, south of a previously approved detached garage that has not yet been constructed, with a proposed storage area above it. The garage received a variance almost a year ago today, on April 7th of last year. That was decision 022034, which granted relief from section 33034, from Sagamore Road for road frontage of 40 feet where 60 feet is required, from the TP Street side for front yard setback of 31 feet where 60 feet is required. So that decision was granted with conditions that the existing concrete patio and wood deck and fencing be removed or relocated with a building permit or prior to the issuance of a certificate for the garage. So during the initial discussion that we had for the variance for the swimming pool, which is also proposed at the same setback as the garage that was previously granted at 31 feet from TP Street. The board requested further discussion of these conditions regarding the concrete patio and the deck and the fence. The property is located in RWB zoning district and is burdened with 3 front yards, one being Sagamore Road, the other being TP Street, and it's also fronting on Abe's Cove waterfront.
There's a little
What's
feedback going
ominous?
on.
Is she okay?
I was gonna say, is she all right?
I think that
I
looks
think
like.
it's frozen.
It's frozen. Yeah,
I hope so.
yeah.
Okay.
You say so.
Well,
It's like something in the exorcism movie.
That's your computer.
yep, okay.
She's back.
Okay.
Oh, phew.
That's much better.
You okay, Helen?
Yeah, I had a momentary moment in the computer, but I'm okay.
Okay.
As long as it wasn't you.
It's a little crazy.
I heard everything, Becky.
Good, okay. The property is also located in a FEMA flood zone, and it's subject to flooding during abnormally high tides and storm events. So the majority of the surrounding parcels are residentially developed, except for the adjacent marina, which wraps around, actually in front of the parcel across Abe's Cove. So at the time of the garage variance discussion, which I listened to today, which was in February of last year, the former owner's attorney noted to the board that the concrete patio existed for a long time on the southeast side, and he showed photos of it. That it was part of the foundation. He also noted that the fence in question belonged to the adjacent marina, and that the good side was facing the subject property. The fence has been removed, so it's really no longer an issue. there was no discussion at all about the wood deck and steps. That was part of the conditions. And that deck provides a necessary second form of egress that's required per FEMA to the residents, because it's elevated. It's really a one-story residence, so that's the only living space. And you need two forms of egress, one being the front side on the roads, and this deck is the second form of egress. So, at the decision approval, which was a year ago, there was no discussion of any of these items. It was just that the decision was approved. So I'm not sure in my review of that if it was something that was written by the building inspector in her notes, and that just carried through to the decision, because there really was no actual discussion by the board, it seemed, at least in what I saw of the last main hearing on this, and then the decision.
Did you look at the file?
No.
If it was building inspector notes, it would likely be in the denial, right?
Well, Marge carried through everything that she had written for the garage onto this application, so that's why it was noted again in my
No, I'm saying
stuff.
for the first variance that you didn't represent them for, did the notes from the building department say all the things about the concrete and the deck and all that other stuff?
To my knowledge, yes, because my discussions with Marge were she had referenced that initially in the garage
But
variance.
that's why it was a condition of the last variance.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not arbitrary that, I mean, you're making it sound like that's arbitrary.
No, what I'm saying is that I don't know that there was an actual discussion about it. I think that Wayne Bruin, who was representing the former owner, who is not my client right now.
Right.
Showed photos, and it was kind of like
Yeah, he was like, whatever you say.
not
I'm
really
not
a
asking for-
discussion.
Yeah, I'm not asking for relief
Right.
for it, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah.
That it was either,
Yeah, but I mean, most of the time, if we have a condition in a decision, it's usually
Yeah.
something that it's agreed upon by the applicant.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying you need
Or the
things, I
agent.
mean, do you have stuff that says you have to have those for egress, other than you just saying that? I mean, why?
I met with Sean McDermott, and I did write that in my prior letter submissions, that I had meetings with the chief building inspector, that it's necessary to have the wood deck and steps. You need a second form of egress to the house, so that the deck is really necessary in order to actually have
Yeah.
legal egress to the house
Yeah.
for FEMA.
What was concerning to us, and this was at our hearings, was that this condition was there, and that the condition hadn't been met, and we were now had a new application.
Right.
So I understand you've given us gonna go over the new information that you have, that basically the reasons why, dealing with this now in terms of satisfying the condition would be, well, I believe you're looking to have us vacate that essentially.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I think. Well, okay. I guess I'll finish my speech.
Okay.
God bless you.
So, upon further looking into the structures that were in question with the building department, it was determined that in order to legalize them with proper permits, that variances were needed. The concrete patio and deck was altered by the last owner, the 2TP LLC, by removal of some of the concrete blocks that were serving as basically the railing.
Right.
So he took that down. Because you can kind of see in these photos that I submitted that there's kind of a seam here. This seam represents the foundation. Above that is what was utilized essentially as the railing for the patio that's within that foundation area.
Right, and there's new windows, and a lot of that cinder block was removed.
Yeah, so he removed,
I think we had that in our decision, right, that happened? Okay, never mind. Keep going.
I'm not sure. Okay, so that's basically what he did, is he removed some of that, and he installed wood decking over the concrete patio was in not great shape, so he put wood decking over it, and he installed the wood and cable railings. And that's it. So the patio slash deck, we'll call it now, is part of the original block foundation for the residents, and that was discovered in the town records. That was submitted to the board in prior submissions that I did this winter. That was dated June 13th, 1968. It was a foundation plan. The CO for the property is actually for the relocation of the house onto a new foundation. And that's the foundation plan from 1968, which shows the outline of this portion of the structure. Doesn't call it out as anything, but it shows the same outline of the structure.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So looking at this, these were pictures taken May 27, 2021.
Yes.
These were taken February 10, 2023. So this is the structure as it exists
Yes.
now.
Mhm.
When was this revision made?
That was,
Because my understanding was this is what it looked like the last time you were here. Or is that incorrect?
that was the only photos that I had.
Okay. So this didn't accurately
That's
reflect what
probably-
it looked
yeah.
like when we were here in
Yeah,
January.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. It's probably looked like that, I don't know, for a year. I don't know.
I have to say this
We
is
posted
better.
the signs, but we didn't.
This looks better.
We didn't go back behind the house.
Way better.
Way better.
Um,
Okay. That's why I couldn't understand like remember I was having trouble with conceiving like what is
Right.
in there. Now I see
Right,
what it was.
so we went
It's
back
just a
and
deck.
we took a look at it. We took these photos
Mhm.
and
Okay.
this is what we had found. So, and the board had also asked for an engineer to take a look at the foundation. So my client hired Steve Maresca, who's a local engineer, to take a look at it, and his statement, which we submitted, I believe about a month ago, and should have been distributed to you. Yes,
right here.
It was.
you
Yes.
have it. Fantastic.
Mhm.
Which stated that the patio and deck area is an integral part of the structure's strength and foundation, and its removal would not only cause major disturbance to the home's foundation and to the site, but would leave the residents exposed to flood waters and wave action with a concave section of the remaining foundation, causing potential for weakness to the main structure. So basically, at the present time, we're seeking the condition, I don't know that we're seeking to remove that condition. I think that condition should have been further explored, because in order to legalize
Daphne,
those structures.
You're asking for them to remove the condition. You're asking for variances for the
Well,
condition.
well, what it was is that
How can they
that's-
explore it if they're gonna grant variances?
well, the
for it?
condition was either to remove or relocate it.
Okay,
So
which one are you gonna do?
you can't remove them, and it's impossible to relocate them.
So you're
So,
not gonna meet, I mean, I'm not saying it's unreasonable, but I'm like, don't say that you're
well,
exploring.
I guess what it should have been is that in order to legalize those structures, which is what the building department was seeking,
You should ask for variances.
that variances should have been requested
Yeah.
Right.
at that
And-
time.
And at the last kind of go around with this, or maybe two times back, what I had indicated is that if we're gonna go ahead and decide to remove a condition, we have to have a justification from a licensed professional that what was in that condition is not viable.
And that would be this.
And we now have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the inside of underneath that
Yes.
deck.
Right, yeah.
So to remove it, you would be
It would be
exposing the basement to
jeopardizing
the
the foundation.
exterior
Yeah.
environment.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so really, it's new information that was not received at the last hearing, making it impossible to
Right,
comply, you know,
With the condition.
causing, major
Yeah,
hardships.
which is exactly
Yeah.
what I had requested.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and I didn't know whether you were gonna be able to have, be able to produce that document, but if you were, then that's, you know, to
Okay.
me,
Yeah.
what would be a justification to
So,
remove the
yeah.
condition?
You would destroy the integrity of the home.
Right, exactly.
basically.
Yeah.
So I have spoken with the chief building inspector, I've spoken with Marjorie, I have clarified the variances which I have outlined, which Keith has very nicely read for us. as to what is necessary.
Don't try to get on his good side.
Good side? No.
Have you guys seen it?
All right.
And
Good try.
they've been there. They've been there in aerial photographs, basically for as long as you can see.
We got it.
Okay, so
Okay.
I think
Got
we've
it.
covered what the issue was. I
So we
mean, I
got
don't think
that
the
part.
underlying relief was ever really as much of an issue as it was just how do we, in my view, justifiably be able to remove a condition.
Right.
That our board had
This resolves it.
included in a prior determination. And I
So
think-
nonetheless, we are still on top of all of this, seeking the variances that we originally requested for the
Right.
swimming pool, being the front yard setback to 31 feet from 60, and I believe it's 70, 60, 83C because the corner is technically within the required side yard.
Yeah. Okay, all right, any other questions, comments? Is there anyone from the public?
I
Yes, go ahead.
think it's much more reasonable to ask for relief on page 3 than it is on,
Yeah, the first
was on
page.
page 1.
Yeah,
Right.
very much so.
Interestingly enough, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what I recall feeling at the time.
Right,
So,
right.
I'm in
I wasn't
support
even sure
of
what
the
we were looking at.
Yeah, I know. It was-
Yeah.
It was
think
very,
that's
it was
scary.
very hard to figure it
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
But I do think that there was a concern that you came back to ask for a variance after we had already granted a variance, and
With a
that-
condition.
And hadn't,
Right.
complied
That-
with the
that's what the
conditions.
problem
With
was.
the
And-
condition.
And by the way, this isn't the only application where we've had to deal with
Yeah,
this recently.
yeah, right.
There's another one.
So-
Yeah, okay. All right, it does not look like, well, I'll ask, is there anyone from the public who is here in the audience who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is for, the applicant is now Pike, 2 Tepe, formerly 210 LLC for 2 Tepe Street in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for 2 Tepe Street, Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Okay, thank you. All right, if not, Helen, it is yours.
I have visited this property on many, many occasions. I have no problem with the application. I would close the public hearing and leave it open for written submissions till April 21st with a decision on May 4th. And I would like to comment that Daphne, you had an excellent, excellent presentation.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
After a terrific reading by Keith of the relief required.
Just doing great tonight.
We're
aren't
just,
we?
yeah, this is good.
It's performance art.
Poor Mike came on time, is really sorry he came on.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much,
Thank
Daphne.
you.
Have a good rest of your night.
Item
Take
eight
care.
on the agenda, Caitlin Velez, Robert Velez, and Eileen O'Keefe. Suffolk County Tax Map 900-82-1-61, 6 Jagan Lane in West Hampton. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-84D, Pyramid Law for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 104 cubic feet for the proposed lifting of a detached garage and the conversion of said garage into an accessory building, pool house / cabana on a non-conforming lot. Additionally, an applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code. 330-11, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from the street setback of 54.9 feet where 70 feet is required for the proposed swimming pool. And 330-115C, continuance of non-conforming buildings for the extension of the porch into the front yard from the existing non-conforming 48 feet to the proposed 42.5 feet, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Hi, Howard.
So I just have to, we re-advertise this, so I will swear you in again. If you can just state your name and address, please.
It's Fred Weiss, 33 Elizabeth Way, Ridge, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, can you tell us about what is now a revised application?
So the first time we came out, well, I was on Zoom, but we were here for the pyramid for the cabana. and the pool was on the survey for a future, but we re-advertised it. Now we're advertising, including the pool in the variance.
Right.
So that's why we're back.
Yeah, and basically the last time I think I had said, you know, we want the neighbors to be notified that,
Correct.
that it includes the application for the pool. If it was just like a slight change to the application, we probably would have done it under
Yeah.
any really necessary, but being that the pool was, you know, another, you know,
Item of variance relief.
Understood.
Yep.
Is there a new survey, or I don't, like, I haven't written in my notes that you were, that maybe the pool was being reduced in size? Did
No,
that
it's the
happen?
same survey.
So
Same
is it-
18 by 40.
Okay.
So the survey that you submitted with the original application remains the same?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. And there it is, 18 by 40. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So pyramid relief, 104 cubic feet for lifting the attached garage, conversion of the garage into an accessory building, accessory distance from street from 70 feet to 54.9 feet, and that's for the pool, I
Correct.
believe. Yeah, yeah, 54.9 inches, right,
Right
right
there.
there. Okay. So basically, we would just
And that's the
re-advertise.
garage.
Yeah, so we really just re-advertised for that purpose to add in the
Correct.
pool in terms of the relief. Have you heard from any of the neighbors?
No.
Your neighbors? No, okay.
Where
I
did
can-
we leave things with the proposed second garage? That's not happening?
That's not happening.
Okay, so no second garage.
No.
Like, they'll be mad if you come back for a second garage.
No, there's no second garage. That was squashed.
You get one.
That's it.
That's all you
Put
get.
the pool in instead.
Well, you'd be surprised, but yeah.
I know you do.
I
Yeah,
took notes.
I've been watching for a while. You guys got a pretty good memory.
And then I think we did get a memo, right, saying that they didn't need.
We did.
The front yard.
We did.
Okay, the
Yeah,
porch.
Yep,
yeah.
yep, yeah, the relief for the porch is not, it was advertised, but extension of the porch for that relief is not necessary
Okay.
per the building department. Just want to see if we had anything else. Yeah, really nothing else in terms
It
of
was the
comments.
second garage that was a question, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So I consider this pretty modest relief.
Okay.
Proposed pool, modest setback relief, minimal pyramid relief, and they're lifting it. So, anyway, I really don't have any questions at this point. Any questions, comments? Does not appear to be anybody in the audience. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of Velez and O'Keefe? This is the property located at 6 Jagger Lane in West Hampton. If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Kevin? Anybody on Zoom? No. No? Thank you so much. Okay, if not, Bob has the lead on it. He's not here this evening, so I will make a motion to close the application, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions will be April 21st at end of business, and we will have a decision ready at our May 4th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Daly? Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Burtis?
I,
Joe votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you
Leonard.
for
No
lasting
problem.
this whole time.
Me too.
I knew it was gonna be last. It's just how it works.
Well, okay, well, I hope we entertained.
No, it was good.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's get through this.
Yep, there aren't that many.
I've got one.
Okay, you want to do
Do you
this
want me to
first?
start?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have a decision in the matter of the application of Andrew Maffey. This property is located at 9 Tiffany Way, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-150-1-4.6. Applicant is looking to construct an additional garage on the southwest portion of the property in order to house additional vehicles and provide storage office space needed since his relocation to this property is a primary residence. Property is burdened with 2 front yards, one on Tiffany Way and one on Mitchell Lane. The existence of 2 front yards necessitates the variance relief request to locate the proposed garage in the principal front yard and 30 feet from Mitchell Lane, as opposed to the 70-foot setback. The proposed structure will meet all other dimensional regulations for R40 zoning with a total lot coverage of 14.1%. Zoning Board of Appeals finds in this instance applicant has established it's entitled to the requested variance relief in that the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood, and meets the 5-part test set forth in Town Code and New York State law. In particular, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible to pursue, given the burden of 2 front yards. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for the proposed garage. 1, Town Code Section 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory front yard setback of 30 feet, where 70 feet is required from the westerly property line, Mitchell Lane. And 2, Town Code Section 330-76D, Placement of Accessory Building Structures and Uses in all districts, and Town Code Section 330-83C, Yards, to allow the garage to be located within the required front yard for the principal building, as shown on the survey prepared by Borilski Land Surveying, updated May 24, 2022. This decision is conditioned upon the applicant and all subsequent owners of the property maintaining vegetative screening on the rear and front Mitchell Lane property lines, and upon there being no sleeping and/or cooking facilities in the proposed building. Grant of the foregoing relief is also subject to the conditions of such other permits as applicant has heretofore acquired or may otherwise be necessary for final approval.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
I,
Chair votes aye. I have 3. First is the application of the Babinski Trust. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-103-243. This application is for property located at 280 Mecox Road, Watermill. Applicants request a variance for the size of an accessory apartment that was created by converting a recreation structure without the benefit of a building permit. While this board does not condone construction done without approvals, it does find that this application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-11.2G, Special Standards, to legalize the conversion of an existing detached recreation building into an accessory apartment without the benefit of a building permit, where the accessory apartment is 37.5% of the total floor area of the principal dwelling, where a maximum of 35% is permitted, as shown in the survey prepared by the Rayner Group, last revised May 3rd, 2022, and the plans prepared by architect Darren John Helgeson, last dated March 15, 2023. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and premises as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
I,
Mr. Leonard.
Abstain.
Chair votes aye. I next have a decision in the matter of the application of River Rock Structured Capital LLC. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-115-18. This application is made by neighbors of property located at 186 Crescent Avenue, Watermill, to challenge the issuance of certificate of occupancy number C220149, issued May 17, 2022. Ordinarily, when asked to review a determination, the board considers the merits de novo pursuant to New York State Town Law, Section 267B1. However, in this instance, the board is first guided by the principle of res judicata, since both the applicants and counsel, and the property owner and counsel appeared before this board previously when variances were granted for the premises on February 4th, 2021, after 1. Multiple hearings, 2. A decision on August 20th, 2020, 3. The reopening of the record to take additional testimony and for a referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and 4. A subsequent decision in 2021 which supersedes the 2020 decision. At that time, the same parties, applicants here, and counsel appeared in opposition to the requested variances, making many of the identical arguments that they allege today, namely that the square footage of the dwelling and carriage house combined exceed 15,000 square feet, and that there was a seasonal use restriction on the existing cottage that is not attached to the carriage house. Finding these assertions wholly unpersuasive at the time, the board elected to grant variances without conditions, and this well-reasoned, thorough decision will not be disrupted or reopened at the whim of the applicants. Even a cursory review of the 13-page decision from 2021 reveals the amount of testimony devoted to the size, use, and configuration of the buildings and structures on the premises, including assertions that the total square footage of the dwelling and carriage house combined exceed 15,000 square feet. Since the board granted variances for a dwelling that is as large as is permitted in the town code, and also allowed for the conversion of an existing cottage into an approximately 1,661 square foot carriage house, which complies with the provisions of the size of a carriage house that permits a maximum of 3,000 square feet. This quasi-judicial board will not re-adjudicate these arguments. Counsel for the applicants asserts that res judicata does not apply since the board did not render a final adjudication on the merits of these arguments, and actually went out of its way to say it was not ruling on the issue of a GFA variance in footnote 1 of that decision. This board disagrees. Footnote 1 of the decision states that the property owner applied for and then withdrew the request for several variances, including one for the size of the dwelling to exceed 15,000 square feet. As such, and as aforementioned, the board, noting in its decision that the dwelling will not exceed 15,000 square feet while simultaneously granting variances for the conversion of the cottage into a carriage house, rendered a final adjudication that the buildings combined are permitted to exceed 15,000 square feet, though the principal dwelling itself could not. Likewise, applicants' seasonal use argument regarding the cottage ignores not only the fact that the building permit that references the limitation was issued prior to the variances being secured based on a pre-existing cottage, but more importantly, that once the variances were secured in 2021 for its conversion, there are no seasonal restrictions on carriage houses, nor are there any restrictions articulated in the decision. To that end, not surprisingly, this very argument was made by counsel for the applicants previously, was dismissed by this board, and was finally adjudicated by the granting of the variances for the conversion of the cottage into a carriage house. Since there has been no additional change in circumstances, nor has there been any substantial change in order to warrant reconsideration, counsel for the applicants maintains that the board should instead reopen the decision to correct itself. Again, this board disagrees. Applicants have had multiple opportunities to present their arguments, and this board is not persuaded that its 2021 decision should be modified or overruled, nor should the certificate of occupancy be disturbed simply because the applicants now seek to bolster arguments that were previously made and dismissed. As it relates to applicants' assertion that the certificate of occupancy should not have been issued since the size of the main house alone exceeds the 15,000 square foot town code limitation, this board review is de novo. As proof that the house exceeds this threshold, counsel, 1, submitted town tax assessor reports, 2, alleges that the building department used the wrong plans in issuing the certificate of occupancy, 3, alleges that there is no evidence that the building department actually went and measured the as-built structure, and 4, submitted photographs from April 2021 of areas of the house that were allegedly converted into habitable space. This board finds the aforementioned facts and evidence to be both speculative and insufficient to establish that the dwelling exceeded 15,000 square feet at the time the certificate of occupancy was issued. Applicants cannot sustain a challenge to a certificate of occupancy based upon whether they are satisfied with the building department's review and/or inspections, nor are photographs taken a year before the certificate of occupancy was issued persuasive evidence to revoke said certificate. Additionally, the allegations that the building department used the wrong plans and applicants' reliance on the assessor's office reports, which reflect 2018 as the actual year built for the two-story house, ignore the very real timeline for the development of the premises. On May 8, 2018, a building permit was first issued for, among other things, a new dwelling and detached seasonal use guest cottage. This construction commenced. On October 11, 2019, the property owner made an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for variances in connection with the dwelling and tennis court, which was later modified to include requests for variances in connection with the conversion of the garage to a carriage house. Subsequent to this, the ZBA rendered decisions on both August 20, 2020 and February 4, 2021, which required revisions to the proposal by the property owner in order to ensure compliance with both the decision and the town code. After 3 years of inspections, reviews, and sign-offs by the building department, the certificate of occupancy was issued on May 17, 2022. Applicants would like this board to review the certificate of occupancy in a vacuum, but it cannot. It is well settled that property owners have vested rights in certificates of occupancy, and as such, the applicants bear a very real burden to show that this certificate should be revoked, which has not been met. Lastly, although not a basis to revoke a certificate of occupancy, applicants maintain that there are 2 driveways on the premises, which is not permitted, absent a variance, with the presence of a carriage house. This board finds that the evidence submitted on this allegation is not persuasive. Therefore, and for the reasons set forth herein, this board finds that there has been no evidence presented upon which this application could be granted and denies the appeal, finding that the certificate of occupancy was properly issued.
1 second. Did you say the conversion of the garage or the cottage? It was under the timeline?
You said garage.
But it should have been the
Should have been cottage, okay.
Yes.
So I'll correct
did say
what I read.
I know, I usually read along with them, and I was like, hi.
Okay, so I will modify what I read, that it's the cottage, not the garage.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Last application decision I have is on the application of Bodo and Helen Krug von Nidda for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-126-34. This application is for property located at 146A Red Creek Park, Hampton Bays. Applicant seeks variances in connection with a proposed one-story dwelling and swimming pool on a lot burdened by wetlands and topography challenges. Here, applicant secured a building permit for the proposed dwelling only to find that the shed attached to the dwelling required a front yard variance. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1. For a proposed one-story dwelling, Town Code 330-115C, continuance, for a principal front yard setback of 41.9 feet where 52.8 feet is existing. And 2, for a proposed swimming pool, Town Code 330-11, Residence Table of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory distance from street setback, front yard, of 53.75 feet where 70 feet is required. And 2, Town Code 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and Town Code 330-83C, yards, to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required front yard for the principal building. These variances are for structures as shown on the survey prepared by David H. Fox of Fox Land Surveying, last dated March 18, 2023, and the plans and elevations prepared by Christopher Jeffrey, R.A., last dated December 2, 2022. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the relocation or removal of the gazebo, frame shed, and any fence over 4 feet in height prior to the issuance of any certificates for the dwelling.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are closed.